else. It's 6 o'clock, Monday, August the 12th, 6 p.m. I will call the City Council workshop session meeting to order. If you will, please stand, and Billy Blake is going to lead us.
Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity we had this evening to do the business of the city, to work on the budget, and to come up with the right ideas and the guidance. So we ask you to provide us guidance and the method that you want us to use, and the direction you want us to go. Let us do the things that you would want us to do. Let us go the direction with our city as you would have us do. We thank you so much for your loving kindness, for your giving your Son in our name. We praise you in Jesus' name.
Thank you. You may be seated. We do not have the flags. Oh, yes, we do. I'm sorry. Please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. So you should see it over there and nice to meet you back. The next item on the agenda is number 4. It is discussion regarding the 2013-2014 fiscal year City of Alstyne Enterprise Fund budget. Mr. Baker.
Mayor, Council, we've given you some update supplement forms. Steve White would like to discuss the supplements, the additions to the budget for 14, and field any questions, and then we'll go on into rate study.
Going to just look at the adjusted. You'll notice on the tap fees, there's adjusted on that. We actually didn't budget anything for tap fees last year, so we're in a budget for what we tapped in this year. Also in sewer revenue, we showed $860,353 for the budget this last year. We're not going to reach that. We're probably going to reach 680,000. So we adjusted the budget to a real number. For sanitation rates, we looked at it, and we estimated it's going to come in about 161, 609.39. On the supplemental supplies, we've adjusted that from 750 to 185, 1,850 to what we actually spent this last year. We had to do some advertising on some stuff.
What number is that?
Still on page 1. On 705, sewer 705.
Yes, sir.
60.
62. 62 on that. Excuse me. On fuel, on 62.16, fuel's costing us quite a bit more, so we adjusted it what we feel like we're going to end up at the end of this year. At 6301, the maintenance on these older vehicles has cost us this year, so we adjusted the budget to $5,000 instead of $1,450. On the equipment cost, that's 6302. We adjusted the budget to 4,500 versus $5,650. On building, we have to actually put internal walls on our offices because of the termites that eat out the roof support, so we have adjusted the budget from $1,000 to $4,000. On maintenance of other repairs, we adjusted the budget from $2,000 $34 to $2,500. On maintenance of sewer repair lines, which is 630, 6340. We adjusted the budget from 79,500 to 120,000. We're going to try to line one line Marshall Street, which will take care of the street, replacing the pipe with the CIPP, Underground Technologies. On 6342, we've got one lift station. It's been neglected over the years. I spent $8,000 on it this year, $12,000 on it this year. It's still only got 2 pumps running out of 4. It's going to take us another $15,000 to get it up to what it's going to take to operate properly. On contract services, we had $193,760.45 budgeted. We reduced it down to $185,160.45. In contract services, it was $171,336. We reduced it down to $140,000. And travel expense was $500. The license and everything here on the guys have not been pushed to where that they actually certified for the TCEQ, so we actually increased it to $1,500 to try to get all our guys licensed.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yes, sir.
The sanitation contract, did you say that you dropped it to?
Well, once we looked at our monthly rate, what they've been charging, it wasn't going to reach the 171, so we reduced it down to 140.
But isn't that our contract with the company that proposed? So we can choose to pay them less?
The rate is fixed, but it changes based on how many customers they service in a month. So it does vary.
Okay. Okay.
Did you allow for any increase in all the population? How much?
Probably about 40, 50 more new houses.
But you have that same amount going out and coming in, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. So up on his revenue, it's going to change right there on sanitation revenue, back up the top, 705, 5601, sanitation revenue.
Yeah.
Instead of it being 161, 650, which is our final budget, that will be changed to 140.
Okay.
Even. And you can see that correlation between the base budget over in the two columns left and where it started out down there in 6704 on the expenditure side. So that'll be a direct correlation in the pass-through.
Okay. As long as they're the same in both places.
Yes, sir. Sorry, Steve.
And 6721 is education and training. Like I said, most of the guys, I've only had 2 C operators since I've been here. Our city requires C operators in wastewater and water, so I'm pushing the guys to get all their Cs and try to meet what's required for TCEQ. And then down in public notices, we didn't have any expenditures of $1,000, and that's 6731. So we reduced it down to 500. And then in the telephone, we have 3 lines that's dedicated to tanks and well control. We're having a lot of trouble out of that system. We're actually going to go to a radio system. It's in the budget for that material. That's in 6783. We were paying, had budgeted $2,200. We reduced it because we dropped one line already down to 1,500. In the interest, we had $56,325. We've increased it with equipment loan from the interest rate. $169,886.17. That's not correct.
Right.
Didn't have it open. Bond fees,
So which one will it be, the 54 or the?
Yeah, the 54,625, that's just that's the interest on the phase 1, 2, and 3 of the G2A loans alone. And then the principal under at 90,000 is the same with the G2A.
that's a bond issue too.
Yeah, it's actually the 2011 B refinancing that we did.
Other services, $67.99, was $3,200. We only used $111 of it, so we reduced it down to $1,000. And 6911, machinery and equipment. We spent $8,000. If the equipment loan goes through, then we wouldn't need the same amount of money that we spent this year. It'd be reduced down to $4,000. Of course, the capitalized items is $28,000 for a 3/4 ton pickup, replacing the 1 ton pickups.
Right, and what you have is 42,209. It's a 28,000 to replace one of the pickups, and then 14,209 is a part of it. Would be the payment for sewer on the lump loan that he's asking for.
And that's the $14,209.
Right.
Any questions on sewer?
Pickup you put in on that loan?
Sorry?
Did the pickup you put in on that loan?
It can. I mean,
So you don't have that expense all the time?
well, the only thing is just going to keep increasing the loan.
So what is the balance between the two, revenue to expenses?
Right now, we're,
Is that 295,000 legit? Or is there other, or we got wrong number?
okay. Currently, expenditures is $295,114.45. And that's where we probably want to look at, looking at the impact fees and looking at them and the tap fees to bring the revenue up. And also, look at the rate schedule.
My question was going to be, Steve, go back up to revenue. Have you gone back for the past 12 months and looked at the number of permits pulled in the city and construction, or those projection on impact fees that we have lost?
No, I have not. I do know that if we keep building right now, let me use an example. I've got a set of apartments being built, and it was not looked at for sewer and water locations. Normally, when we do a sewer tap, it's a 1 hour, 2 hour job to go in for a sewer tap. We actually have to set a manhole and run about 60 foot of pipe because that system was not engineered for that many buildings. So I'm actually having to spend more money. I'm probably spending $25,000 down there just to get sewer and water to it.
Is that where?
That's the Cooley edition.
Okay. What happened to the agreement that he wasn't going to build those extra? He had an agreement with Philip that he wasn't going to build but 2 deals in there until we had gotten the sewer situation all figured out.
You did?
Done. Yeah. That's something he and Phil negotiated.
Yeah, you didn't.
Nothing was in writing? Okay.
We don't have anything in writing as far as that's concerned.
Okay.
Did Phil came to discuss that with you?
He discussed that with me one time when I was having lunch with him. He told me all about it.
Did
Okay.
he discuss it at a council meeting?
No,
Was it a
I
discussion?
don't think so. I don't remember it being
Minutes.
I don't remember it ever being discussed. We were just talking about stuff. He was telling me that, it had some sewer problems out that way, and he was just telling me that they'd made an agreement, him and I can't think of his name now.
Is it Bill there?
No.
Bill.
No, I mean, who he made the deal with, which is,
Mr.
Phil
Cooley.
Rodriguez.
Phil.
Phil, James Cooley and Phil Rodriguez.
yeah, James
Phil
Cooley.
Rodriguez.
James Cooley and Phil Rodriguez made this deal. So,
All I know is it's costing me more to make these type of improvements.
Yeah.
In the buildings.
Here's my recommendation, if we come the new fiscal year, October 1st, I think we need to highly consider our impact fee again. The economy is changing, we all working, it is not going anywhere, and if these types of costs are passed down to the buyers, I think there's a revenue stream there that you need to see.
I would like to, what I'd like to do is propose that allow Lynn and Bob, the engineering company, look at compatible impact fees,
Yes.
and we'll make a recommendation in January.
I think the recommendation needs to be made in October. If we're looking at a deficit in the budget, we don't have that things. You're asking for money without revenue.
As you can see, this year, the revenue was short $100,000.
We're gonna be about 12-15% short this year of what we projected.
What we've done is just totally shut down everything except for emergencies. Anything breaks, it can make it a while, then move on, but
We're in the same situation we were last year. We're not even got the water yet, but I know it's coming. Everyone knows.
Yes, sir.
So we need revenue.
I agree. After we walk through both of Steve's items, Phil Gibbons is here as part of TCEQ paying for us to have a rate study, and he'll walk us through his assessment.
Okay. I believe we need to look at it before January 1st.
Okay. What kind of time frame do y'all need as far as?
Well, we've got to do the inventory and then the master plan. We've already started the master sewer part of it, but we haven't done anything on the water side of it. So that'll take some.
What's a realistic time frame?
January is going to be pushing it, but if we need to do it sooner, we will.
It's, to me, budget should be 12 months out of the year.
Yes, sir.
How long ago was it when you spoke with Mr. Cooley?
that would have been, I would say sometime after the first of the year, 2012.
2012.
Not too long before he left.
I understand that they want to build some more out there, and I just, right now, the infrastructure, I don't have it there.
Yeah. Like I said, that's why he made, the deal with Bill, because we didn't have the structure to support it.
It's there, it's just,
So it
it's just
surprised.
gonna take a lot of money.
I don't drive that way that much, and so it surprised me the other day when I saw the extra ones going up. And I thought there was only gonna be 2 there.
I don't recall that, but I'm surprised we didn't keep it back there. Is that the ones they talked
We
about?
got a total of 5 in it.
Right. I don't think I was in council.
No, you wouldn't have been on the
But I
council.
was at the meeting that I can't recall.
Well, if he said that in 2012, did you just say that Mr. Cooley had made that remark?
I think that was
After the first of the
when-
year in
right now-
2012?
I think that was when Phil left, right?
The month I was.
He started in
sworn
2011.
Phil was meeting.
Yeah.
May.
It was May, yes.
So he
What
didn't
was
leave
the
till
night
May.
before?
Yeah, it was
I
the
think-
day before the election.
It was before he started building.
No, it did not.
Yeah. But I remember that being before council and that winter,
Yeah.
December, January, maybe. I remember discussion.
And there was nothing in any of those minutes in
Not that
regard
we've
to
seen.
that.
This is the first I've heard that, so I have to go back and research it.
Did
as
we
far as minutes are
research
concerned.
that just in As there was something that was there.
But each one of these little subdivisions should have some type of engineering. Our engineer needs to check, make sure it's workable.
And this one does not.
It's gonna make it difficult to work. I mean, what I'm collecting out of it, not gonna cover the cost of installation.
Is it not normal that the contractor provides the builder's advice and all that?
Usually the impact fee helps on it.
But isn't it normal that anytime something's built, the contractor, the developer has to pay for all of that?
I think what y'all's ordinance actually states we have to provide services. We're on our right of way, so we actually have to make a sewer tap. Now, not having anything there, and we don't have a capitalization plan on new development where you actually pay for what it put in. So we're just working on the basis of it. We have to provide a service, and we don't have no way to capture it.
Was his right of way given at purchase, or was,
We've had a water right of way there, water and sewer right of way already.
that comes into his little subdivision, whatever you want to call it? Or are you
It's-
talking about that's on
It's on
Newport?
Textile. We actually have to provide services off of Highway 5. If we go to Newport, we'd actually have to cut the road, shut the road down, cut it, and dig down about 12, 15 feet. And then run sewer out there. That's the next option if they don't build anything else.
Presently, it's locked down.
That's right.
To Mr. Smith's question, typically, we would try to get any future developer or contractor through the tap with Steve's oversight. In this case, that was right before anybody.
So we do not require that at all.
Nor do we require an oversight of a subdivision to see whether it's going to have services available. And that's where we're trying to change the method that actually starts.
Because we've got D.R. Horton and some others that are looking at expanding, and they need to be able to engineer, put in all of those services at their expense under our supervision.
And we would look at that on the.
And the right of way is,
One.
given after it's been accepted by the city, which eliminates all of that expense by the city, which you know that.
I mean, since I've been here, Frank, Lynn, and every time a developer comes in, Lynn looks at it, and we look at it, and make sure we try to cover all our bases before the development actually takes place. So, and we're trying to get them to pay as much as they're willing to pay on the development of the utilities. But then, I mean, outcome in midstream, there's no documentation on this subdivision or addition. So, I mean, we have to provide a sewer and water.
Can't we get it in place so that we can truly
That's how-
very soon?
Yeah, that's how we're working the system now.
Because there will be more and we don't want to be complicated.
And what we're asking the developer to do now, for example, do we met with them the other day. And what we're asking them to do is we're not being treated differently in Alstyne than they would be in another city. We're only having to do what's typical and normal, as you pointed out, for a development project. And we have looked at that project and they are proper.
But we actually need it like
We did.
Steve, you said it's upwards of 25,000 to do what you need to do down there to provide tap for them.
We're actually having to sub manhole, that's
Right.
about, I think manhole cost me $7,000. We'll have to put in gravel base manhole, and then we'll probably backfill it with a floor will fill around the manhole so it doesn't move. And then we'll run a 6-inch lateral down, down the frontage of the property so they can turn their sewer in, and then we have to dig down, tap into the water line for 3 taps.
Is what they're doing now fill that particular area up? Is the 6-inch large enough? Or is there any?
We're 6-inch subdivision. We actually got whole subdivisions on 6-inch.
Is the 25,000 that will be incurred in this year, or is that in this budget?
This budget this year.
It's this year's budget.
He said, and according to his construction supervisor, they won't put in 5 more.
I came to council, they brought 2 phases. And Hager, whoever our previous engineering, I don't think they were here when we looked at it. But they had their engineer and somebody else looked at it. Yeah, I believe so.
All I know is that if they come in there anymore, we might actually shut Newport down, cut the concrete road out and dig. And that's deeper than anything I got equipment for.
There's 5 more that will be going south.
I think it goes west.
South, south, east, west.
Yeah.
On the other side of that drainage.
Yes.
Is there,
There's a drainage ditch.
There's
Halfway there
drainage
through the
ditch.
park,
He brought
isn't
2,
it?
he brought 2 plats to council back.
that's all approved in, there's nothing behind it?
We'll look back through the files, but there's nothing besides the approved plat that was filed. Is that right? There's the first phase, we're gonna do a turnaround, and then there's a second phase that, where he's gonna bust out the turnaround and go ahead and build out the other 5.
See, I remember that busting out the turnaround. I remember a statement being made that would be done to a later time because they didn't have, it was actually, because I asked about, I remember, because I asked about the fire.
For public safety access, since Highway 5 was gonna be their main point of exit,
Exactly.
ingress, egress,
Exactly.
we had them upsize the alley. As far as the fire code was concerned, the only thing we had to do was upsize the alley and do the turnaround.
I remember the fire access because they've got to go through and tie in. I remember that. I think I was on this, and I asked that and asked if it was paid.
What they got
Wait a
right now,
minute,
he
he
got
went
to
to 5.
I don't think so.
He talked
No,
about
it's 2.
3.
It was two.
Two.
But
And then
I think we need to look at the
he's raised
minutes.
the rest of it.
Yeah, you can check the minutes, but I'm pretty sure he platted for at least 5. Which is what I
if
have
he's
now.
doing
which is-
5 more,
Right, 5 more would be
Has he
another
cut
issue.
it would
He
be
had
But the
another
current
issue.
5, I think he's fine.
We'll have to take a look at it. No, he's not gonna, he didn't, were you talking about cutting through 2.5?
Yes.
No, on the plat that I recall, there wasn't anything for him to cut back through and get anything from text off and go to cut it to 5. It was gonna be a dead end, and that's why we had him upsize the alley and upsize the turnaround at the end.
But the 25,000 that you're talking about is going to be done this year. So it's not, that 25,000 is not in here in the budget we're working on. Okay.
He's just talking about for impact and tap fees, that's the example he's
And
giving.
you have the money to do that?
Luckily, I bought most of the material for repair San Antonio from Stephen Peter Pay Paul.
But if he goes forward with the other 3 we're talking about too,
And it'd be,
and you're talking about it, and you're not budgeting for that much.
well, I mean,
Well, wait a minute. When Georgetown was put in, they had, the Blaylock's had to put in all the infrastructure. I mean, that ought to be, I would assume that was just a common thing to do.
It's a development agreement, right? Which is,
Yeah.
like,
Right.
Cooley, that's not something
He's
he
a
had to
pro-
get because it's not
It's not
a
development.
development.
Exactly.
It's an apple and orange.
Right.
but anybody breaks in phases, it should be treated as a development.
Yeah,
Well-
but they should be equal in that because whatever cost you have for the utilities has to be covered by them. I mean, we talked about that in several things.
well, perhaps if we research this, we can get a better line on what was done and what was said.
Have more reason to look at the impact fee.
Yes, sir.
Before we know.
For October 1st.
Boy, the impact fees could be changed.
We can do
For
that.
this budget.
We can do that. Well, I think we're gonna have to consider impact fees as a revenue. That's where we need to do some projections on numbers. With us having the attention come October 1st in the new fiscal year, the rest of that counts.
So that, we need to have it go into effect.
We need to have some ideas and projections of some revenue possibilities in that area.
We need an
Consider
impact fee
this budget.
study though.
Yeah, we have to, there's regulations according to state law to create an impact fee. You have to show the need
Well,
and then what the demand is on that need, and then you can relate it to a fee.
But we're waiving impact fees now.
Right. And you have existing
That we-
on the
that we can-
books that,
Undo.
We could look at
That doesn't take
reinstating.
a, that
but,
doesn't take a study.
well, you can undo that, but then, yeah, as we get the new study and you get the real cost, then you might, it probably would, my guess is it would probably go up.
But we can rescind the impact fee that we have now
Yes.
for the, it was designed for Georgetown, but it was for the entire town.
Yes, yes.
That could be changed the 1st of October, right?
And they can look at those figures right now and get some determination, depending on how they are ordered, go and have built in the past 12 months, what we think we're looking at in revenue, and start applying to these numbers.
But look at the number of permits that we pull for houses.
Exactly.
It takes times 2,000, that's how much more revenue.
Exactly.
I agree with you, now is the time. I didn't agree last year because
think-
they were just starting, but now we need to do away with those waivers that we had in the past. And that could be done without a study, right?
Right, yeah, you have existing impact fees on the books. You can rescind your recension of them, and then go back to charging them. And right now, and then as we update them and we get more current, and then we can go on.
And that could be done.
That's what we need to look at now.
1st of October.
Well, you
I mean,
can do
the
that the next
1st of
council.
January,
Can-
their study, right?
But to rescind the existing impact fees can be an agenda item in September, am I correct in that?
Yes, sir.
Rescind the waiving of the impact fees.
Rescind the waiver.
Because there's about $2,000 a
And that's, I guarantee you, when Lynn's right, when we do the study, we're gonna find
It's gonna
it's
go
gonna be
up.
very, it's gonna go up.
Yeah, because just on a residential home, off the top of my head, I think that the impact fees alone that we waive are over $2,000, and then we also waive half of the tap fees, water and sewer tap fees.
Well, it was 3,000 that we lowered, because it was 5,200 for permits, and we lowered it to 2,200. And we did that however many years ago. So there's $3,000 we're not capturing for each house. And I think things have changed between now and last year this time. I mean, the economy has changed.
I think we do that, get some projections on what we think is gonna take place in construction over the next 12 months. Let them do their study, and next year we come back into the study. Even if we change rates and go at 75%, that's still be a pretty good deal compared to most cities.
But we can change the waiving of impact fees effective January, October 1st. Of what we already have.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you
Rescind the
So that
waiver
needs to
of
be an
impact fee.
agenda item for September. And we do, out of all fairness, need to let our builders know, we our board know that they need to get their permits now.
That and like I said, that's cost that's passed on. And the institutions are loaning, buildings going on, people, the old works on every house is building.
Well,
So
it was a gift.
over the course of a 30-year
It's been a gift all
note,
along.
it's nominal repayment. So we need that money.
Surprise!
Well, we can all fairness.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Is there any further discussion regarding this? Mr. Snyder?
On water, as you notice, we had budgeted $933,709. We actually projected to reach $724,266 with a shortfall of about $200,000. And I don't know whether it's from rainfall or what, but I know that the revenues pretty much put tight, squeezing everything. On the penalties, you notice we budgeted for 35,000, and we actually collected 28,000, so we reduced it down to 30,000. Since we've been here, we really enforced the penalties, and we collected a lot of money up front. I think it's going to start dropping off. Everybody's getting adjusted to the fact that we will collect the penalties.
How does this 724,000 compare to 2-3 years ago? Before we did, raised all the rates and everything? Anybody remember how much we were getting back then?
Assessment on it. I'll bring it back to you, but that 700's back, it was in the $600,000-700,000 range, what we had for 10, 11, and 12.
Okay.
And so, because the rate increase was projected that we were going to bring in now 33,709. It was a substantial jump, but it didn't pan out because the base rate, of course, base rate's base rate, but as far as consumption's gone down. Our average consumption when we did the rate study last year was awesome. Thank you. Fiscal year 10 on water sales is 671, 068.95. 2011 was 688, 184. And then what we adopted back in 12 was 655. And then the 13 base was 1060, 244. So that falls in line with what I was just discussing in the $600-700 range. What's happened is since we've raised the rate, from our rate assessment last year, we were in the 7,000. The average consumer was in the 7,000 range as far as how many gallons per month. This year it's fallen down right in between 4,000 and 5,000. And it may be exactly what Steve's talking about, the lower temperatures in July, and the mild, just the rains, just the mild summer that we've been having up until this month is partly attributed to our consumption being down, not as significantly as, I mean, it's probably a contributing factor, but it's probably hand in hand with us raising the rates. So
I think it's that, Frank, and it's also, if I remember, when we looked at that last year, we based the cost on just 75% of what the actual average used to work in the past 3 years.
yes, sir.
So we looked for it to fall. I think this is indicative of just how cheap our water was.
Yes, sir.
And people, when they realized that, it's a commodity and we need that revenue and we started charging, they cut back the word. So they could do it.
It's like gasoline, raise prices.
So you get $20 for this one.
Well, right now,
And that's what we talked about last year, was you raise the rates.
You're throwing back.
Then you're gonna sacrifice. That was one of my arguments for not raising the consumption and raising the base rate, which was controversial at best. But you're guaranteed if you raise the base rate, but you're not guaranteed when you raise the base rate's raised, you're guaranteed income. When you raise rates, you're not guaranteed.
And if you recall from last year also, we had a number we were trying to reach. And in order to get that number, we needed an average, I believe it was around $22 per customer. We talked about doing just across the board average cost increase of $22, same on base rate. And council was not in favor of it. They did not want to seek the revenue. That was,
For a one time, I think
no, you weren't.
I was for a one time. I was willing to do.
No, not one time.
Yeah.
It was $20 per month, flat every month, and you do not want the increase from the fixed income people in the state. That's the whole basis of what we're doing with rates. You want to average it out where,
To go back and look, because I was okay with raising it once.
One time, so.
Yeah,
well.
till we
don't you
got,
recall
because of the
that?
wastewater thing, and then.
It was a $22 per person average, and they did not want to increase the bill to $22 per month for every customer. See that, I think it was $200-something thousand for the current year. And the council was not in favor of that. recall that one?
So, yeah, but I used the same amount of water from the previous year that I did this year, and I paid 50% more. So,
You know, it's
I've
rates
used
are
about
used
the
as
same.
a conservation method also.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 4 weeks, we have tanks that's not keeping up during the daytime. And I've got one well down that we had used because it's going to take about $60,000 to get it operating again. This last weekend, we had 2 tanks down to 7 feet. We recover in 24 hours, but it's taken a tremendous pull on our system. And we have a lot of people that's using more than 40,000 gallons of water a month. So, I mean, it's a good method to make conservation.
You said we have a rate analysis this evening?
We did, send us, or
So we
did you get all the highlights on the water? Okay. Yeah, go ahead and move on through your expenditures on the
Okay.
And, so that way they have an idea of what it is, where we are, and what your adjustments.
In our expense, of course, like I said, we're about $214,000 under on revenue this year. So in the expenses, we looked at the expenses and we're asking for, when I got here, there was no certificate pay for the guys, like I said. So I didn't implement a certificate pay back in. It used to be there, but it's been taken out. That's an incentive to make the guys actually work hard and get their license and progress in their field. So we've added $6,957 back into the salary budget of $117,863.60. Also on the overtime, sorry, Mayor, it's 6101. In 6102, I've reduced our overtime in the last month and a half by scheduling people to work the weekend instead of paying them overtime. So they take off one day in the week instead of having to pay them for 5 full days and then another 8 hours overtime on the weekend. And that's where we're going to try to save some money also. In our office supply, we didn't make any changes. In our clothing allowance, 6210, we actually got increased it by $400. When we're dealing with wastewater and water, you really don't want to take a lot of some of the stuff we get into home. So you try to keep the clothes changed over as much as possible. And 6212, when I did the water survey, I found that the postage was extremely high to send out all those surveys to the people. So we decreased the postage by $100 and spread it to other waters. And 6302, like I said, we reduced amount of maintenance by $1,060. On the building side, we increased it $500, and that's 6303. And then on the maintenance of others, this is where the tank comes in for repairs for next year. That's 6305. I'll actually have to come in. Oh, excuse me. This is the SCADA system. The SCADA system is what controls the tanks to actually tell it when to pump and not. We've had so much trouble with this system that's over 14 years old. And electronics is a mixture of radio and telephone. So we're not getting real good communications, and the software was illegal. So we're trying to buy new legal software. We couldn't get updates, and the system has taken several lightning hits. So it's going to take $60,000 to run it up.
The insurance covered the part.
It was, what was our deductible? 5,000. But most of the time, it's the bills are like $4,000. So I didn't cover our deductible.
What, is that a long term? I mean, how many years is that?
Usually a SCADA system, you get 10 to 15 years. And we've already pushed in the life expectancy of our I think
But
Lynn
is that
talked about
60
that.
something that could be put in on a finance thing?
On the state system? Probably so.
I mean, just an option.
It's a capital, it's a
Not
capital
at
item.
$60,000 expenditure.
Yeah.
And 63, 32, last year we spent $13,000 on water tanks, trying to meet the compliance for TCEQ. This year, the tanks are in good shape, so we reduced the budget for last year down to $7,000. And 63, 34, you look at the supplements, you can actually see where what these are actually being spent on. 6304. I've got $40,000 added to the existing $40,000. We have a lot of tanks and wells this is where the well's actually coming out of $60,000, it's coming out of $80,000 to repair well 6.
Quick question, Steve. Which line item with that 25,000 you're talking about that would you be using?
That would be out of 6330.
6330.
And 6336, it says water meters. We're changing to radio read meters.
Now, the 6330 he's asking about, I'm talking about James Cooley?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be on the sewer side, more on the water side.
But
But
the
it
water-
would be 6330.
It'd be, we have to do water too.
Oh, really? Yeah, but he's talking about setting a manhole that you see, right? Correct?
Yes. So this is, James Cooley's coming out of 2 budgets.
Right. Water and sewer.
Yes.
6330 both.
We're going to progressing towards radio read meters so the guys can actually read meters faster instead of spending 5 people out there reading meters for 5 days. It'd take one person about 1 day to drive down the road and read it. It'll actually radio read the meter.
You are going to that now?
I am going to that. We've already put in about 40.
They don't have
the heads on them yet.
Is there any possible funds from the state to well funds or monies of some type or conservation?
That'd be on the drinking water side, if we get that low interest line.
This 26,000 is only 120 meters. That's everything. So I mean, for 3,000 meters, you're probably looking at $80,000, $90,000.
Have you notified the public that these are smart meters?
These are not smart meters. These are just radio readers.
Okay, just radial read?
Smart meters actually communicate to a computer. These, the only thing they do is actually relay to our readers.
Okay.
They're not like the electrical meters that give you the day-by-day consumption. They give you, all they do is just transfer the information into the truck of whatever it is that's projected from that point. So that way we can get the monthly read. And also we can know exactly who's using what at what time.
Ms. Karen, a lot of places in the solar park, we have to actually go in fences with dogs.
Yeah. Oh, I understand.
Sometimes I look at the dog.
Hey!
I look at the bone and I take the bone sometimes and I said, well, I'll give you something to chew on beside of me. Contract services, we increased it $26,280,000. That's for some of the contract services for the future development, water lines, the sewer and impact fees. So we actually budgeted some more for that.
Is that the money you're spending at the treatment plant with GTUA? Or is that what?
That's the difference.
Yes, sir.
We're not there yet.
We went by, what I had.
Okay, then I've got a question on that.
Okay.
Where did we go by that?
No, it was on the first page. I've asked them to figure me a fee or them to come in and do a spot check every 2 hours every day with the operator I have down there.
Let me find something right here. 6703. Contract services. Okay, I missed that. Okay, can we go back?
Yes,
My understanding, we got hired someone that's licensed.
yes,
Are they on staff?
they're actually working.
Okay, and GTUA was what last year?
60,000.
60,000. And we're only reducing the budget by 8,600.
Well, actually, if you look on supplemental, there's supplemental on CTA.
6703 on pay on the,
705.
yeah, 705 account, 6703, that's the GTUA contract that you pay for services like water and wastewater treatment.
What I'm also using some of that contract services for is them.
Okay, but just strictly GTUA. I understand
Theirs is $18,000.
for the whole year?
Yes. From 60.
Okay, that was not, last year it was, so it went to 18 from 60, so that's $32,000. We're increasing the budget by 600, or decreased to 8,600, so.
That's for sewer surveys. Actually, we did a sewer survey for his infiltration rate this year. This next year, we're trying to do a sewer survey just on manholes themselves, so I can have an engineering cost for what's going to take to repair these old brick manholes that borders actually disappeared. I actually have water coming through the ground into the manhole. And that will be them actually going in, actually looking at every manhole, open them up, photographing it, and give an assessment as far as priority, what type of repairs and everything. And also, we have to do a master study on, for some of these loans, we have to actually have a master study.
And for the impact.
And for the impact
For the
fees.
impact study.
So that's where that money went to.
So you're reallocating money, basically, and we're only seeing 25% of the savings that was produced from the hiring of the person who
When we first hired GTUA to do that, I saw $257 a day was the expense for that. That'd be $91,000.
I was thinking 90,000 a year.
Yeah.
That's
Because
what I recall
we
from last
paid them
year.
$250 a day to manage our sewer plant.
They've been billing us right around 5,000 a month.
I recall last year the number $90,000 in contract services to GTU.
That including water.
60,000 for the wastewater treatment plant operator. is what we're working on.
That's what we were thinking
Yes,
about.
sir. So this next year, we're looking at, Steve wanted to have oversight, make sure that our new employee is doing things properly, so that way we don't have, we don't fall back into the same habits that we had before.
So you budgeted 16,000, 18,000 for GTUA.
And that's 2 hours. Make sure they'll look at their sample reports, look at the operating procedures, walk through everything.
How long does that go on? How long
I'm
is
looking
a
at-
qualified employee being supervised?
I'm looking at probably 1 year.
Where did this $250 deal come from? That's another example of something we were told that wasn't true.
What do you,
I mean, I saw in print $250 a day, somewhere around that, $239, $250, that we will pay for GTUA.
when was
That had to be at any week time frame.
All of those, they charge me for postage, they charge me for mileage.
Yeah, it's
If you take
92,000.
90,000 divided by 365, it's $260.
Yeah, it was $250 a day.
That- I mean, if you're paying
And I thought,
90,000.
why can't we get somebody in there for that job? If we had to pay a person a premium to take the job,
We actually had to, I had to put it out 3 times to get an operator and go further and further on. The industry that we're in now, my age and older, has got the license because the younger kids don't want to accept that responsibility. So they're not developing into the Class A's and Class B's and Class C license. Now, if I go up another, if I go over 900,000, I have to have B operators. Good thing about it, I've got an A, so I just have to get one operator and do B. But I mean, it's just real hard to find qualified operators anymore. And most of them are retired. A lot of people.
Do you feel the guy who got hired is
He's very qualified.
from state? Do you feel?
He's pleased here.
As far as contract services, what was budgeted, see, for 2010 was 21,009,650. The actual was 39,835,07. What was adopted back in 2012 was 28,000. But what was estimated, and this may be where you're hitting the Denny Week numbers, $84,653.38. But that wasn't what was adopted for 12.
All of those, I think, about 5,058, something like that.
So that 60,000 a year is going to 18,000 a year. And the other 42,000 is going to reallocate to engineering services, some studies.
For infiltration studies, plant upgrades. If I can ever reduce I&I and the grit that actually comes in with wastewater, the grit is actually, being around bearings and stuff, that's what actually damages the bearings. It actually brings my lab samples up real high in ash. It actually offset my sludge. I'm having to pump more sludge because I got more grit in there. I'm trying to get rid of the grit so I can have less sludge.
Then going back to the 6703 where we're at now, what is that contract service?
Well, a little bit of everything.
701. Back to the wall.
Okay. All right.
So
and,
GTUA was all under the 701.
I'll tell you, I gave you all these right here. The engineering, you'll notice, for 705 is contract lab services. I pay you about $18,000 a year for lab services. And we have to do testing and stuff. GTUA is going to 18,000. Phase 2 of the sewer assessment is 47,000. And engineering for sewer improvements is 80,000. Mayor, it's 67. It says, okay. I got all these in order, so I could have said it was on page 4.
Good deal, thank you.
I just didn't put a number on it. If you look at 4 is the water, or if you want to look over the page, the third page, you'll see what repairs we're trying to do to the wastewater plant. There's no bathroom down there that's functional. So I'm gonna try to do a bathroom in down there for the guys. According to the, well, I'm trying to rehab the one I got down there. But I have to have showers because of the type of material that they work in. They have to wash off. And I don't know what it's gonna take for power and everything to get that building operating. I don't have a building other than this older building.
Can we, on these, it happened a few years ago because I asked for it. On contract services, can we have that expanded? So we know, have that divided out?
By contract?
Yeah. Because Bill Harrington's was notorious for hiding things in contract services.
I did try.
And I'm not saying
Yeah.
you are, but it helps us to know, I mean, that's an awful lot of money just for contract services. I'd
Well,
like to see
actually,
it
I
divided
have,
out.
I don't know if I got the engineering quote.
Steve, what I'd like to see is just a simple Excel spreadsheet
Okay.
about the contract services. By firm. Go down and list each cost for the year, by firm, by month, with a monthly total for the year. And
No contract services.
that totals up to just one, like 63, or, yeah, 163, 694.
Could that be done on every department, where we know what, I mean, it was broken out at one time, and they got compressed together.
That is,
Yeah, we can break it out so that you can see what the total
yes.
represents.
What each expense in contract services.
Here's what I worked a lot of it off right here.
And I don't know if I have enough copies, but this is kind of what I thought you kind of shared in between. This is kind of the junk that.
Who do you use for lab? City of Sherman?
City of Sherman.
Yeah. So they do have City of Sherman.
In this case, this is, all that you're looking at right there is the Madison Council.
These are all.
Yeah, those are.
Here's one.
And the tasks that we identified to help Steve put together, and then in addition, he's got the lab, and he's got the I&I, with the pipeline analysis, I think. Is that kind of the detail you're looking for?
The detail on all of the contract services.
So
Yeah, that goes
this
away.
is your, that goes away.
Well, I mean, well, yes. It depends on things.
That's stuff on
But
the,
that's your fee, that's your
Yes,
fee.
yes.
That's your fee.
Right.
And then these are actually.
Those are the ones.
some of that stuff on that far side, it'd be paid for in one.
At the bottom.
That-
But that's, yes.
The spreadsheet is, that would be good.
Put it together.
Okay, we want a spreadsheet for contract services on all of the contract services, not just water. Citywide.
There's one more item on water, that's 67.8, and that's animal control services. We have $300 listed in there. We carried, if you noticed in my monthly report, we carried about $35 to Sherman this year. And when we have to do it on weekends, we actually have to hold them because Sherman will not accept them. So there's 3,000 in here. I've got some pens by the Humane Society. They have to be covered and they have to be protected from heat. So I'm gonna put in a concrete slab and buy one of these pork covers and place it over the pens and sell. They're actually down at the wastewater plant, but they won't be disturbing people.
Do you have access to pea gravel? Because that's a lot better on the paws of.
I have pea gravel, but they won't stay in the pea gravel. They dig under the fence.
Really?
Yes. We already tried that.
I don't.
A little background, I ran two animal control services in the last two cities I was in. One where we collected 70 to 80 gallons a week. So, I'm trying to get us set up as just a staging area for 1 to 2 days by the state. There'll be 2 people going to animal control school, basic school, which is required by being in animal control. We can't get into county to pick up, we just couldn't afford it.
Does Sherman come down and pick them up?
For a fee, it cost me $45 to even take it to them, and that's me
But
delivering.
for them to come down here? Because there's a Sherman animal control truck that goes by all the time.
Yeah, he lives here. I live somewhere down here.
Gee, I thought that was gonna be
Do it
for
on your way home.
a gun for killing.
We were trying to contract with the county, but they, both our animal control officers, they're quit. So So right when we were trying to get a bid from him, John Teal came down and said, hey, both of our people quit. I don't know whether they're in, but county wasn't going to be able to take care of it for us.
So it costs us $45
Every
time.
dollar we take in.
So, and what has their fee in the past been?
I don't know, that's, since I've been here, it's been $45.
For us, but we've never
And that's
checked
what
on
they
what.
charge.
What I'm gonna try to do as a revenue source, if I would get it classified as a holding site, then we can actually, charge for, boarding and, capture fees. Especially for the non-tagged animals. Sherman's actually helping me try to get, they know how to get, tag, not tag, but the implant reader. So we'll be checking the animals also.
So, who would you charge this
Well,
capture fee to?
Well, there's a lot of dogs in here that doesn't have, tags or rabies shots. They'd be the ones who actually have to pay for it. The owners. Now, we've been putting them on Facebook, and out of 10 dogs that we put on Facebook, we had 5 claim.
So when they claim it, they must pay all this.
They actually have to pay ordinance that we have for allowing dogs to run loose. They have to go before a judge for that.
Before they get their dog back.
Yes, ma'am.
That goes into municipal court.
Yes.
That doesn't come back to public court.
So,
So the fine, they have to pay the fine that goes to municipal court, and then any other cost comes back to you,
yeah, like housing and boarding fee.
which has to be certified before you.
Has to be certified and has to be approved by the state.
You sick of big cats.
Picked one up. She was 45 pounds, I believe. We finally found the owner. I should, about this big around.
Little tiny head.
No, it has big head. You're talking about your 6797, which is where we actually, I'm sorry, 6796 is CMGA, take it or leave, take it or pay.
Are we getting money from Melissa? Is that why that's gone down?
No, according to the rate that they gave us, that was the fee, 85.
Okay, where does the money from, that we get from Melissa?
We haven't gotten anything saying that Melissa's taking too much water this year.
If they haven't passed.
They haven't passed. Typically, we get informed that that's occurred. But right now,
We
we
haven't
don't have any information on that.
to expect any of that.
Where does that money, it was 18,000 last year, wasn't it?
It sounds correct. I thought it was closer to 30, wasn't it, at one point? No, so it was 18. It goes back into his revenue.
It goes back into.
It'd be in his most miscellaneous.
Okay.
I do want to look at 6796 again for how that change goes. We've got 2 invoices in the last 2 days. They didn't charge us O&M maintenance for a whole year, and then they bombarded us with O&M maintenance at one time, which is about $12,000.
On 96?
Yes. And then also I got another bill for O&M maintenance. I didn't know we were being charged for O&M maintenance for the sites, and apparently that wasn't budgeted in, so I'm gonna wait and look at that number when we know.
But they're charging us
Right now, it's
45,000 less this year for taking pay than they did last year.
well,
That's the number they shot to us.
yes.
And going back to your question about Melissa, back in the first year, we got the 14,616. If you go back up to miscellaneous revenue, 6701, 5499 miscellaneous revenue, 14,616. Projected actual is not correct, but the year to date, that's from, we believe that's from Melissa making the payment. We can verify that. That came in, that would have been a late payment that was supposed to have happened last year, that came in this year, early in the year.
On which one?
That,
On the water, miscellaneous.
so on the 6796 and the 85,000, that's CGMA's number that they've given you?
Well, if their sales are down.
Yes, sir. The 85,000?
Yeah, that's what they, that's what
That's
they're
the number,
saying.
that's the, all three takeouts.
It's surprising.
But, we didn't expect that. The bill was this big.
Yeah.
We didn't expect to see that, and all of a sudden it's sitting in my box. Also, there's a good chance, what we plan on doing is those constructions, all these construction sites, once they start producing, they're gonna need water. We rate was $1 for their water, was $1.07. And our rate for the use is $8.
The way we discussed that y'all established.
We'll be taking, I'm gonna try to recapture some of this in sales of probably water construction sites.
None of the developers will give us an accurate number though. They say it all depends upon rains and whatever the factors are as far as them. If they have plenty of rain, then they won't have to shake the dirt and feed the water that they take from us. So nobody will really give us an accurate estimate of how much water we're going to be.
I really not budget anything for revenue on it, because this last construction site was the college, we had money budgeted for revenue on it, but they didn't have any need the water because it rained every other day.
Can't you put a meter on it? Tell how
I
much they
wish.
use? I
We
mean,
did.
not for rain, obviously, but you say they don't give you accurate figures,
I'll give you an estimate.
Well, we set a meter,
Oh, yeah.
we set a meter for the actual take. But as far as getting an estimate from them, as far as you're gonna develop these 40
So we don't
acres.
know we're gonna have until we
How,
get it.
how much water do you typically need?
Okay.
And the answer is always, well, it really just depends on the rainfall we get.
What
You
you
know,
got.
we'll take it as we need it.
So we'll get the money when we get it, not
Yes,
anticipate it.
yes.
Okay.
And of course, 6914 is capital item, and that is equipment loan and another vehicle for the water.
You know, that again is total cost of the vehicle.
The 41 is actually two items.
Right.
The 28,000 is the vehicle itself.
Okay. Have we ever talked about leasing
And the only thing,
We haven't, we can't.
policecarlease.com?
the only thing I ran into in cities, construction vehicles like ours take a lot of use. And if it gets damaged, you end up paying for the lease and the damages also.
I was told by a policeman in this vicinity that leasing is the way most economically feasible to have police cars. Plus you have new police cars every 3 years.
You tell you who's doing that? What agency?
Police
What agencies? I mean,
and this vicinity.
But is
Don't want to get
specific
anybody
to
else
police
involved
cars or
in
like
this thing,
utility
except-
calls?
but if it's just a city, I mean, we can go and see what they're doing. What they're not.
Well,
Then we
that-
can, if it's
that's-
open records, we can ask what their contract is, we know what they're paying, and that way we can negotiate a
No,
decent
I'm not
contract.
going to tell you. I don't
Okay.
want any repercussions for anybody. You can go to policeleasecars.com.
Okay.
That's where the information is.
Yes, sir.
I don't want any. So the 28,000 could be
And then do the
Also-
loan and-
put into that
Yes.
loan, so we wouldn't have that, all 28,000 on top.
Have you ever contacted the county purchasing agent to see if they can help with vehicles, not necessarily equipment, but vehicles?
We're out most of my prices is off the Bible, which I guess Texas, it's kind of like in Arkansas, we had a state bid and it's set at the price the cities can buy. You don't have to actually go for a bid because it's already been bid out.
Yeah, I was talking to someone today, and he said that it's the sheriff's office in Sherman, and they said that they go through the state, and the price that he gave me when he would go for like police vehicles was $25,000 for a Tahoe, and that was already complete. That's not your equipment, but
You're talking about the state, or you're talking about the county?
county, the county purchasing agent.
Okay.
It's 20.
Jeff Schneider is the guy that Holly told me to.
I just want to make sure I got the note. Right?
Yeah.
Well, we go through HGAC, which is what municipalities and counties and all different agencies go through, and that's what the state contractor rate is.
But if it's 25,000 fully equipped,
Versus the 70,000 we were talking
there's
about.
35,000 what we were talking about.
No, we jumped, we put you aside and we're talking there. Well, back to the budget at hand.
All right, so that's it.
How many employees do you have? Count yourself?
I have, right now, 5 and 1 part-time.
Okay.
Now in the budget, I've asked for a full-time secretary because try to keep up TCU's paperwork and the budget and our employees. What we're doing, actually doing it, cost analysis on the jobs, what we're actually doing, material and cost, actually seeing where we need to improve.
Have we ever considered hiring temporary employees during the summer that are like high school kids or college kids?
Actually, had 2 this year. I've got one that's still working. The high school kids never working.
Do they?
When they find out they're going to be mowing grass for 8 hours. But I found a guy that's, he'd been off a while. He's taking, if I have room for him full-time, I'd put him on. But it's hard to find good hands.
Can you have, if you lose a full-time employee, can you do like the rest of the real world is doing and just have 2 part-time employees and not have to pay all benefits?
Well, then you get into TCEQ's laws. Work on water and wastewater, they either have to be a trainee, they have to have so many hours, and then they have to actually go test for the license. You just can't take a part-time person and put them in water and wastewater.
So they could do mowing, but they couldn't do any of the street services or stuff like that, or water.
So you get it working on water and working on sewer, you got the,
Does that 5 include you, or is that 5 plus you,
5 plus me.
plus 1 part-time?
And I'm running out of money on that, so August is probably his last.
I had discussed, we had discussed the mayor's newsletter, and you had also done research on changing the water bill over to a trifold. And when it is done when that is done, if it is approved, this is in the budget of the general, this would be in the general fund budget, but not in the water. It would not
It's in the
pertain.
water fund.
In
It would
the
be in
water
the water.
fund. Okay, when you do, if that is approved, where was that listed if it's in the water fund?
It's in the
What's the number?
it's actually 6212. That's on the 3rd page.
On the third page.
Right, the newsletter portion, I don't remember the fee, but there is an additional fee for the added paper. That portion would most likely come out of, mayor's expense, but the bulk of it is the water billing, and it would come out of the water.
Okay, the price that was given to me was the newsletter would cost $5,640 more a year for the water department. Is that correct?
That, I believe that total would include the mayor's newsletter. I'd have to
Yes,
go back.
it
and
was
look
for
at
the, it was for the 2 pages, it was for the, I've forgotten the name, I don't even think I have down the name of the company that, what was the name of that, Mr. Moore?
USDI.
Squad?
USDI.
Okay, if it's in there and you go to this and they do handle the water bill, then would that free, we have a water clerk, what difference would that make? And would that be something that, this is just a question, but is that something that he needs a secretary if this amount of work is less done by the city? Then could she not do?
Well, all the information that's compiled, ma'am, would have to be sent to them. So you still have to have a clerk that's
Well, I
putting
knew we'd
everything
have to have
together.
a clerk, but I didn't know.
That would only eliminate probably about 4 hours of her month, of her duties, because just the printing and then the folding is not that arduous. The process that takes a long time is getting it to print. And then once she got it to print, she would just email the file rather than hit the print button.
Okay, but I thought they would do the folding and everything.
Yeah, we just email the file to them
Just
and they
email the
print it,
file
fold
and they
it,
do
mail
everything
it.
else.
Yeah.
So how much more a month would it cost for it to leave? Over
That is with the newsletter and the water bill.
5,000?
Yes,
Annually.
$5,640 annually.
So we'd have to increase.
So, and we're talking about, instead of a postcard, it would be a trifold with this.
You already paid $5,500 for the postcard. And we'd have to pay another $5,500 for it to be a newsletter?
$56.40 for it to all be done. For the newsletter, it would be the newsletter and the bill together.
Right. Would be how much?
At 2-page. And I had asked about a 1-page, but didn't you say they would only do a 2-page?
Right, the bill that they do is 1 page, and then if you wanted to do the mayor's newsletter, that would be the second.
A 2-page. So to do it in this format with a newsletter that explained it fully, it would be $5,640 more a year.
But you've saved the other 6,000? And we're now paying to send out the other?
No, it's an increased cost from what we do now.
Okay.
The cost would increase by that.
More a
Oh.
year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it have to be put in an envelope then instead? No, it is a trifold. Just, okay.
I've got two questions. I got one question.
Yes, sir.
The tax proposal that passed for streets, how is that reflected in this budget?
It's going to be on the general fund side, so
It's on the general fund side, so
we'll discuss it next week.
did you not make any adjustments in your budget here under street repair or anything for that?
Yeah, I think
It's $90,000, right? $96,000, that project is.
Should be 93.
I think I placed it in there, that's 90,000, and I got it in front of me, so I couldn't see.
But you didn't make any adjustments for that, and you didn't do it.
It's in.
Yeah, not in what you have there,
Not
because
the one
that's
there.
just water and sewer.
Okay. So, grand totals is our budget, so right now you got an $870,000 deficit in your budget. And $671,000 of it is in water and sewer.
Yeah.
Which is 77% of our deficit. Correct? So this is last year, we know what problem. Which leaves us, I'm assuming,
Mr. Gibbons' time. This is Mr. Gibbons' time to shine.
you bet you.
I got the checkbooks and the total checks.
Mr. Gibbons?
Okay, I'm gonna put the, as Frank said, I am here being paid by Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. In 1998, I went into a contract with them. I'm a private consultant, but I went to contract with them to provide numerous services across the state to help utilities. I worked for entities under this contract as large as the city of Houston to as small as a 5-connection system, so size doesn't matter. My specialty is in financial planning and management, and I do more rate studies than any other item. So I started with them, like I said, in 1998, and been doing it since then. And what you have before you on the screen is a tool that we use for the purpose of leaving it with cities or with utilities, whether it be a district or water supply corporation, etc. So they have something to use going forward. They have to quickly analyze what their rates will be at the same time they're doing the budgets. So that's the purpose of this too. So in column A, what you see is your line item name identical as they are in the budget. We do that because that's how you're used to looking at it, so I don't want you to have to learn something new. Back to left there. Thank you. She made it a little larger for us. Good, thank you. And then the next column, column B, is the actual expense line items, again identical to as they are in the budget. If you notice directly beneath the column B, you see fair share rate analysis. That is the particular type of what's known in the industry as cost of service rate analysis. We do a particular type of that called rate fair share. That just drives on that. All we're trying to do is to get every participant, every ratepayer to pay their fair share of the expenses of the utility. We'll keep talking about that more and more. So that's one of our objectives, is to be equitable in our rate analysis to all customers. Another one is we try to get the utility towards sustainability. Of course, it's already an enterprise fund, but we want to move towards sustainability, meaning that the entity that has a financial structure that it can self-sustain itself now and into the future based on the structure that it has. So we go forward with that. And then column C, in your case, you had your budget already subdivided by water and wastewater, but a lot of entities that go into they don't. So that's what that column is for, is to determine on each particular line item, what part of that line item is water and what part is wastewater. So in your case, like I said, it was already subdivided, so we're looking at water right here. This is on the water, so all of those line items is going to be water. And then column E is the item that's going to be actually used, that column, to calculate the rate for the water. And then column F is another judgment call area. What we're asking there is, of that particular line item, that dollar amount, what amount of it is fixed? What amount is going to vary with water usage, customer water demand? And what we've seen around the country is that the great majority, especially in small systems like yours, most of the expenses are fixed, meaning that it doesn't really matter how much the customers demand. Is it 100,000 gallons or 1 million gallons? Your fixed expense is going to be the same. I heard one of the council members mention that earlier during our discussion that, and this is again what we're seeing around the country, a lot of utilities, because water demand is beginning to go down, they build their structure based on water demand. Then when water demand goes down, obviously we're going to have revenue shortfall. And so what we try to do again is design it so that it's based more on your base rate, so that the revenue stream stays flat for you. So when water demand goes down, we're not really hurting. So we do that exercise on each one. We look at it, make a judgment call. It's not fixed. If somebody in the utility, for example, thinks a particular line item is 60 versus my 70 or 80, they can just type in that whatever number they think it should be, and we will automatically recalculate that line and recalculate the total. So if you can scroll a little bit more to the right, thank you. And then, so that'll be the fixed breakdown based on those judgment calls of what percent is fixed. And you always want to err, again, on the side of being conservative. You want to err on the fixed side, because again, we want that revenue stream to be as flat as possible. So then once you put in the percentage for the fixed, the variable amount, which is the amount based on the gallonage, that's going to automatically calculate and show the variable amount. So the premise or the principle behind rate setting in terms of being fair is that once you establish what your fixed costs are and your variable costs,
do you want to determine your base rate using only your fixed cost numbers? Because we want to be fair, we want everybody to pay their share of the fixed cost because they're fixed. And then the variable cost is used to determine the cost per 1,000 gallons. Because the people that use the most water, they're the ones that are driving the variable cost. If you use 3,000, I use 30,000, obviously I'm the one generating the additional cost for electricity, chemicals, etc. So that's the whole concept behind it. So we continue that for each line item, then we go all the way down to, let's look back at the categories again. There's one that's not in your budget I want to point out to you. The line item, well, the last one you can't really see the line item, but that one, thank you. Annual depreciation. So in terms of sustainability, we know, just like when we buy a personal vehicle, that the moment we begin to use it, it begins to lose value, it begins to wear out. So the same thing happens for the pumps and motors and every piece of equipment that you have in your water and wastewater utilities. So several years ago, the Government Accounting Standards Board, which is the board that regulates and governs the CPAs who practice government accounting, they came out with a ruling called GASB 34. And that ruling said, from this day forward, you need to calculate the depreciation for the water and wastewater systems and put it in the audit. So whenever I do a race to audit, first thing, one of the things I ask for is the audit. Go look in the audit. In your case, it's on page 25 of your audit, where the CPA calculated your total depreciation, and then he has a line item for your annual depreciation. So one of the ways to build sustainability is to include that amount. This is not a cash expense, meaning you're not writing a check to someone outside of the utility. But what you should be doing is actually knowing what that amount is, including it in your rate analysis, like it is a cash expense, and then you write a check to yourself, to that department. The concept being that account is going to continue to build and build and build. And then when you need a new motor or a new truck or something, go out and finance it, or even take it out of your operating account, you go to that depreciation account, and you take the money out of there, and you pay for it. So that's why we plug that number into your budget as a item to include in your rate design, even though it's not a cash expense. Some other ones that I did not include that you will see depending on the city is a capital improvement plan. I think I heard y'all talking about doing a master plan, same kind of thing. The difference is that the capital improvement plan has a schedule of major rehabs or repairs that's going to be done, and you know the exact amount you're going to need every year to put into that fund. So that's another fund that's not there. Another one I didn't include was an emergency fund. That's another type of fund, and y'all may have that already, I'm not sure, from looking at your audit. If you had that like in a CD or something. But that's just another reserve we tell people to have, so that's also an emergency. City manager's already authorized to go access those funds. So that's just a couple more that's not there that you can just food for thought you've been thinking about going forward. Okay, let's scroll down to the totals. So that column, the yellow column, is the one that we focused on now. And that's going to have our total.
Quick meals on it.
Absolutely.
If you build that into your rates,
The depreciation.
Mr. White doesn't have to come here each year and ask us for capital number to go back into his department to make repairs and even replacements completely.
Correct. For existing equipment to replace existing equipment, that's where that money would come from. And so what the staff would do is take whatever percent that total depreciation is of the total, let's say it's 10%, for example. So they would take the revenue they receive each month, and take 10% of it, stick it to the depreciation. And then when he needs a replacement, he goes and accesses that fund with council approval, of course. So we have the total there, which I can't see what that is. It's like 1.278 there. Now there's another line item. See that less other revenue? If you can highlight that one, Jennifer, for us. And what that line item is, I go through your budget and also your audit and look for any revenue sources that you have. Primarily going to be things like tap fees, late fees, bad check fees, all those fees is in your ordinance. And we look at how much you collect on those on an annual basis. We subtract that from your revenue requirement. Because you already collect money for that on a direct basis. If I need a tap, I pay for the tap. I don't need to track that again in my rates. So if I don't subtract it out, then I'm double collecting for it. So I go ahead and subtract that number out. And And that leaves you a final number of how much you need to bring in through your rates. Just to the upper right of that, you see a little percentage, 95%. That's the total percentage of all your expenses of how much are fixed. So, which is very common for small systems. You have a very high percentage, 90+%, in your case I think it's 95, that's actually fixed. Okay. So all of that's what we call the rate sturdy proportion. Let's look at a few of the variables we can scroll down to that we enter in. Okay, right there, where it says the average number of connections, equipment connections, 1682. And that's actually higher than your physical meter count. That's your equivalent number of meters. So a 2-inch meter, for example, based on the industry and engineers study that's been done over the years, a 2-inch meter allows 8 times the water, or is designed to have 8 times the water flow through it than a 5/8 and 3/4 inch meter. Going back to the premise of being fair, I have a question for y'all. Well, let's say that my minimum bill is $10, and that's based on the fixed cost for the system. But someone has a 2-inch meter which has 8 times the flow than 5/8 and 3/4. What should the minimum bill be for the 2-inch meter if it's 8 times the flow? Sir?
$80?
Correct. Thank you. $80. That's the whole premise behind equivalent meter connections. That's why we go through that exercise to determine. And again, you can also find this in your audit. Your auditor puts this in there as well, and it shows all your meters, the equivalent numbers should be, and so forth. So when we determine what your minimum bill should be based on your fixed costs for your 5/8, 3/4, that's what that column is showing. We make an adjustment. We multiply that base cost times the number of equivalent meters for that size meter, so that that meter size is paying their fair share of the fixed costs. Does that make sense? Yes, sir.
What if you have, like in our city, where we have metered fire sprinkler risers that may never in their lifetime be used?
Very good question. I like that. I get that a lot also when I go down and do resort communities. People say, well, I'm not there but once a year. What you're paying for is the availability of work. See, because I got to have this guy on staff whether you use it or not. I got to have the backhoes and the trucks. I got to have all those fixed expenses, whether you use it or not. So it's there for your availability. It's what you're actually paying for. It's called, what we really call it for, you go back with some of the basic manuals, like the M1 manual, which is like the Bible and Race 30. It's called the availability fee. That's the fee to have it available to you. So that's the answer you know. And the other comment you'll get is that I'm not using that much water. Great, get with your operator, they can downsize your meter. And the city's going to be protected because if they are using that much water, they're going to call back and say, I'm having problems getting enough water. I'm not getting enough pressure. That means they're trying to pour more water through that straw. What I do a lot of times when I speak at conferences, I help the water out at the tables, and I give people a little straw that you normally get to stir your coffee with. And I give them a regular size straw. I said, now take both of those straws one at a time and suck as hard as you can. And you're going to find that no matter how hard you suck, the one that has the big straw is going to bring more water through. It's the same thing. The larger the pipe circumference, the more water is available to go through. So that's what you're really paying for, is availability of water. So you can see here, we have a minimum bill of the 5/8 3/4 inch meter at $42.41, and then continues to go up from there to $106, $212, and so forth. That's those adjustments being made based on the size of the meter. And we do that all the way through a 10-inch meter. If it gets beyond 10 inches, your engineer needs to get involved to calculate what the equivalent factor would be for that meter. But this will take care of most customers. There's a few that goes above that. The other variable we put in is your gallons that you pump, that was the customer's bill the previous year, the 118. Now in your case, I looked at 2 years, 2011 and 2012, and I used the lowest of the two. Again, being the most conservative, we can't guarantee that the customer's going to use X amount of water, so we want to base the rates on the lowest usage. If they use more than that, that'll be fine. What we're seeing around the country, though, is people are actually using less for two reasons. One, They're just changing their habits to conserve water. And two, the new fixtures that's put in those new houses that you're putting, low flow shower heads and low flow toilets and all those type of things, it's just taking the effect to reduce overall water demand. So that's why we used a low number. And then there's one other variable we put into the right, which is your cost per thousand. Just kind of scroll to the right a little bit. That green number, $3.20. So what we did, we looked at your current customer usage and came up with a cost per thousand that's kind of the average, like most of the customers would fit into. Even though that's not your particular rate right now, I wasn't even proposing, but that would be the average.
That's per thousand regardless of usage.
Yes, that's after the minimum bill.
There's no 1 to 5, 5 to 10, it's just a 320 per thousand. Flat fee.
That's the average agreement. Now, once we actually do the rates, there will be those increasing block rates.
Okay.
Yes, but this is just the average, so we can get an idea. The lower you make it, the more conservative it is. The higher you make it, the less conservative. We want to try to be fair and try to get an average of what the actual usage was. Okay, and then why did it's doing two of them there for some reason? There you go.
You got to split it there.
Yeah, you got to split that. Thank you. Okay, then the spreadsheet also does a projection based on all those variables we just inputted, what the revenue projection would be per meter size, per month, per year. That's what the extension is out to the right. Also, this is including 0 gallons in the minimum bill. So you said we have two columns where the numbers are identical: minimum bill 3241, and then you have minimum bill including gallons. The reason why we have both columns because sometimes utilities want to include X number of gallons, 3,000, 5,000. Whatever that number is that they include, we calculate what that cost is and we add it to the minimum bill. In your case, it's 0 gallons included, which is what I recommend. That's the industry trend again, because again, if you're talking about being fair, if you charge me for 3,000 gallons and I leave town for 3 months, I still have to pay you for 3,000 gallons. But if you just determine what my fixed cost is and I pay that every month, then that's a lot fairer than charging you for X amount of gallons. So glad you guys get that. You already had your rate set up like that when it came, so that's very good. And that's it on the water side. So that will generate the 1,235,000 that you need for water. Minimum bill of $47.41 for the 5/8 to quarter-inch meter.
And what would that bill be on the average? What did you say our average down to, Steve? Right at 5,000 gallons?
Some of them. About 3,500. But actually, not that tab, but the next one, we'll go there in a minute.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and do the sewer first while we have it. But we have a comparison table for you, where we can actually compare the customers at those various gallons, 0, 5, 10, and so forth, to what they would be versus the new. Again, we do the same exercise we did on water. List all your expense line items, the amounts. These are all wastewater with the one exception of depreciation. By the way, on the depreciation number, we divided it in half. With half of it in water, half of it in wastewater. You could do a more thorough depreciation study, which your auditor probably already has in their worksheets, where they list each piece of equipment and break it out, but it probably not. It probably won't be much different than 50% on a small system like this. Let's keep scrolling down. It's the same guesstimate about what percent is fixed, what percent is variable. Same number of connections, same gallons. We're assuming that you're going to bill customers for sewer for every gallon that goes to your water meter, which you currently do. And so that one would generate a minimum bill of $44.27 for your 5/8 to 4-inch meter, again, including 0 gallons in the minimum bill. And would generate a total of $1,272,000 for your sewer. Versus just sweat. We were just asking to have some of it. See if we can make that a little larger. So now at the top table is your existing rates. 32, 27, a total of $50, yeah, for the minimum bill. Then to the top and to the right shows the breakdown per gallons of what a customer bill would actually be at 5,000 gallons, 10,000 gallons, and 20,000, so forth. Then the bottom shows what the customer bills would be at those same gallons based on the recommended. And we notice we also recommend here that we change the increase in block rates. Currently, you have 198, 265, and then 319 continuous.
198.
Excuse me.
198.
188, excuse me. 262 and then 319. 319 in particular really doesn't encourage conservation at all. Because once I get above that 20,000, didn't matter how much I use, I'm still paying 319 per thousand. What we want to try to encourage the customers to do that, one, try to conserve, but if you choose not to, and you again are generating additional variable expenses in electricity, chemicals, things of that nature. So that's why we have an increase in block rate that goes up higher, from $3.65 to $4, $6, 7, 8, 9. That's a change to what you currently have. The blocks are still the same. And then the dark green toward the bottom, 31 line from the bottom shows the percent increase that would be on that particular gallon usage for each one of those. And then the next one is the actual physical dollar increase. And then the last one is how the customer can fund it per day. So that's, what's the first one? I can't see that one. 92 cents per day would be the difference. And that particular column is the minimum bill column. The other column is the actual gallons, but the first one is the minimum bill difference. So it'll be going from the 92 cents difference per day over a 30-day period. So what a customer would have to do is, if they wanted to see how they could figure out how to fund that, they could not buy a bottle of water or not buy a can of beer, something like that. Curious, one of the things I do around when I'm doing speaking around the state is that I ask people, what is the value of water? And when you look at our history, in the history of our country, when I say water, I'm talking about public water systems like yours, not just bottled water and other kind of water. One of the things we provide is sanitation. And when I say we, I have served on a board of a municipal utility district for over 20 years, so I'm an elected official like you with some of the same concerns, and all of us serve because we're concerned about our community. That's why we put in the time. We could get home watching Gunsmoke like everybody else, but we're out here serving the community. When I start looking at their age,
Tell me your age, don't
that's right. He still comes on, you know. They kind of weird, once in a while, on challenge. But all those guys, walking tall and everything. But the value of water, AWWA has did a very good PR piece that you can get. I don't know if they charge. It used to be free. They may charge for it now. I can get it online. But it talks about the value of water. It points out the important things like sanitation. Before public water systems came along and disinfecting water, the number one cause of death in this country is cholera, waterborne disease. We're very, very rare to have it anymore. That's one of the things that we do as public water service. Economic development. We're talking about the homes being built and so forth. None of that can be done without public water systems. The city of Chicago could tell you about how bad fire can get out of control. Well, again, public water systems can provide fire suppression through that. So the value of water is tremendously undervalued. When you look at the cost per thousand, let's say it was even $10 per thousand. You still aren't talking about 1 cent per gallon. Yet the public has been convinced that this has great value. They would easily go to a convenience store or whatever, or ball field, pay $2 or $3 for this kind of gallon. They would gladly pay that for a gallon, easily. But for a public water system, when you wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, open your tap, get convenient water, safe convenient water, and the quantity you so desire, people won't get paying less than a penny per gallon. What's wrong with that? The problem, I think, is us being the utility industry. We have not sold the customers on the value. So that's my soapbox for tonight. So as we start talking more about customers, we have to start to tell them, help them understand rather the value of what they receive. Then they'll appreciate it more. Yes.
In your studies and looking at this, what if you didn't have block rates, you just went on a flat per gallon or per thousand straight across? Have you looked at those rates compared to blocks and how they?
Yes, we can actually do that. Let's go to water.
And the reason I ask you is, I mean, it's obvious where we're headed. We were headed there last year, and we're headed there now this year. And the first thing that's going to come up is the cost of the citizens. Citizens that are on a less of an income per month than some citizens. The percentage increase, if you look at the percentage increase on the base rate, which is usually your lower, and down in that end is your lower consumers. Is it more equitable to have a fixed rate across the board on a per thousand gallon, or even per thousand gallon, than just have a block rate? What's your thought?
I like the increasing block rate for two reasons. One, it encourages conservation, and it's fair for the people who use a lot of the water. They pay a high percentage of that variable rate, and so it helps to spread the cost out. But that's did you want to look and see what the cost would be?
Oh, no.
It's very easy to do.
It's obvious what the cost is. Well, what would it?
Let's click on the water just real quick.
If we tried to reach that same revenue and took, do you have, we can.
Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah, let's see what it would be.
Wouldn't that be the
Okay,
320
then
that was on the other page?
go to the,
Is it the 320? Or
I would think.
You said that was the
go
average?
to what the variable cost is. Let's just do it and then scroll to your right.
That was the 320
This is a good
per
opportunity to
thousand?
demonstrate the
Okay.
tool. You can do
Yeah.
you can do an infinite number of what ifs.
Right.
It's going to immediately recalculate for you. So where you have that 420, put in 0. Yeah. So you don't have a cost per thousand.
Okay.
So now go back over to where it shows the rates down and over, and you're going to see that rate has gone up. Because you always have to collect the same amount of money. So,
Exactly.
but now you went to $61. So if you get a flat rate, $61 per month.
That's just on the water
That's
side?
just the water side.
That's just the water.
Yeah,
side.
you have to do the same thing on sewer. You have to do that.
So it's, yeah. $10 a month just to.
So what, in fact, what's happening is that the people who use the low end, use the minimum amount of water, they're somewhat subsidizing the people who use a lot of water. But you got to collect that.
See, that's what the council is against last year. And I think we'll be against this year.
In any of your figures, do you ever take into, like some cities don't, their sewer rate is not based on the amount of water you use, except for only 4 months out of the year.
Yes.
So that you don't pay, like I pay sewer on my sprinkler water to sprinkle the yard, and it's not any of it's going in the sewer, so it should be a part of that system.
Yeah, it's called winter averaging, and a lot of people do it. But any revenue you lose through winter averaging, you're gonna have to make up
Yeah.
your base rate.
Yeah, I
So
understand.
I have done it, and
Do a lot of
I don't
towns
have
do
a-
it,
an
or
opinion
not?
on it either way, as long as we make enough, generate enough revenue to cover the expenses.
Do a lot of towns do it? Do you know?
I wouldn't say a lot. It's just, I haven't actually surveyed to see what I mean, but it's very common, I'll put it that way. It's very common.
I think my experience, I was utility director in Dallas, and I think my experience has been in the larger cities, a lot of them do it because it's incorporated in their billing system and it's automatically done, and they do it. Whereas a lot of the smaller communities, either for whatever reason, don't do it. And, like the community I live in Sunnyvale, which is a little larger than Alstyne, they don't do it. Now, they do have a cap. They don't do a winter averaging, but they do have a cap.
Okay.
You pay a maximum. And so I think there's more than one way to do it. Sure. But as he said, if you're going to do cost of service, you just have to make sure that whatever you do accommodates and provides the revenue that you need to keep the system.
And then the logic behind winter average is very, very valid. It says that I'm not using that water that I use in the summer for my yard. I'm not using that in the winter. So, my sewer bill should only be based on my winter. That's all they said, the cold month when I'm not sprinkling. It's a very valid argument. I have no problem with it. I think it's a fair way to do it. As long as you're recouping the revenue shortfall, and you're going to do it. So that you don't do it.
Have you seen any communities implement a non-permeable surface runoff cost?
Like for stormwater?
Yes.
There are some that have that, yes. Actually, they have a separate, they have a separate utility cost.
You create a stormwater district, and you
Yeah.
create a stormwater drainage fee.
Yes.
Is there any, knowing we have the infiltration problem we have, how much does that impact your cost through the year in treatment? And if we looked at a charge like that, where a varying rate of this during the year, based on which square footage is the home and stuff.
Are you talking about infiltration?
Well,
That's a bit of separate system there.
I know.
Okay. I know, you're saying it's driving up your cost because your manholes are leaking.
But some cities have implemented something.
Well, they use it on the stormwater fee. It doesn't go to the I&I fee. The I&I ends up
It's
being,
fixed in- okay.
it's fixed in the sewer rate.
Okay.
yes.
Right, because that infiltration is currently through your groundwater,
Well-
not through the runoff so much.
But if we're seeking revenue to address some of those issues and problems, could we look at that as a fee in the water bill without, we're trying to get revenue. Bottom line, we're trying to get revenue.
Absolutely.
But what do we show is that type of a project, it's like last week we was talking about flat fee on the bills, to generate revenue to address some of the issues we have now.
That's not a free revenue, because once you implement it as a stormwater district, then you got to comply with ADQ rules and regs on stormwater treatment. You actually have to start separating solids and trash in three, and then you have to treat the runoff too. So it's not a,
Once
And
we
you have to
start,
maintain the system.
So it's more complicated to add
Yeah.
revenue in that.
About the discussion you had earlier about the impact fees, that's a good one. Comparison revenue, certainly don't have none of that regulatory issues associated with it.
So we're going here over the next 45 days, and come up with a number, we think we can generate some revenue from impact fees. We can adjust this accordingly
well, as we trim the budget.
as we trim the budget.
Yeah, if you're gonna use that revenue in the utility, that'd be, like that subtraction I made earlier on other revenue, I would add that to that line and subtract that, now that projected revenue right now, before your revenue requirement's gonna be decreased, which is gonna make your bill increase. So yeah, absolutely, you're gonna generate revenue to account for it.
So go down to the bottom now, we changed the 220 out, we changed our minimums, right? And we're still
I think so.
generating the same revenue because all that was impacted in the minimum, right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
So we're still looking at the minimum could be $111.
Go back to the rate comparison.
The rate comparison,
that's 61.
So we changed to 61.
42 to 61, total bill, it still goes up $27, $128 a month. Oh, no, there
Well,
you go.
Yeah, if you didn't have the
Exactly.
variable costs, it would be that.
So it's just 6, I think the other one's 111, is it not?
No, it was 86.
It was 86, okay.
I think it was 86 total.
Yeah.
111 if you use 5,000
Right.
gallons.
Oh, right, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so 111 up to 5,000 gallons.
Right, which would be what most of the customers get. I think it was like 64%.
Yeah.
64 for, yeah.
Well, now we're running 81. $30.
Correct, at 5,000.
Now, one of the things that's not reflected that I was just noticing here is an impact to some of the customers. I don't know that percent increase in the bill reflects the increase in the cost for the meter, the fixed cost for the meter size. Because, as I understand right now, all the meters cost the same. Is that
No, he
correct?
said the new electronic meter.
No, I meant the monthly bill.
Oh, you mean currently? Currently,
Yeah, the big size station do, because the rates are.
It already does right now?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. So, I'm sorry.
So what would the rate be for a fire suppression?
See, what we that is just a 3/4 inch meter.
Right. What we have, the ordinance that we have in place says that if a fire suppression meter, as long as there's no consumption, they pay the minimum base rate. So right now it's 32.
If we adjust the rates?
Right.
Like you're talking,
We would change. We would bring that ordinance back before you to make it 42, 41. But if they consume water, and it's like a 4-inch meter, if they consume water, they're going to jump up to the 4-inch base rate plus their water.
Oh, so they have a 4-inch meter.
Depending on the size of the meter.
Right. Okay.
so they're gonna jump up to the 4-inch rate for that incident where they actually use water for 1 month, or it goes up?
It's
from
yeah,
that
only when they consume.
Just the one.
Just for 1 month.
Right.
So if they have an event or if the system gets tested at one time, at 1 month, they can switch.
So every year they're gonna have the system tested and they're gonna pay the 4-inch cost, the 4-inch.
Yes,
Do you know how much water runs through this testing system usually? Because those.
It's typically,
We run anywhere from 6 to 10,000 gallons.
depending on the size of the system, I mean, some of the smaller systems, it'll run 80, 120 gallons. Like that.
For that month that they use 80 to 100 gallons, that their
They'd have
base
to,
rate will go up.
they'd have to use 100 or more because those only spin every 100 gallons.
So they don't reason. Just saying. So they use less users, you get 0 rate.
But they're,
If you use less than 100 gallons on a test,
on the big meters,
then your base rate is gonna stay the same.
because we're not gonna be able to,
Yeah,
we're not
it
gonna be able to
doesn't register
identify them.
consumption.
It'll have to flip a number.
Basically, just be the minimum bill every month, unless they use over 1,000 gallons.
Yeah, so they're not getting away with that.
Eventually.
But next year, they'll be caught because
At least it's continuous reason.
They don't,
Yeah.
the city of Sherman only reads those meters over 90 days in Sherman. I get hit over 90 days, and usually only get hit once a year when we do our power system test. But you pay the minimum. You pay the minimum. And I usually run, I've got 4 systems I check, and it's about 10,000. No, 10,000 gallons total. I've got one that will use 3 or 4, one that use 3. Depends on how long they're running the pump. We even have a fire system on the pump.
At the intermediate school. And Caterpillar's supposed to have a pump on their system.
What's the preference versus the increasing block rates and the flat rate?
For your base
I'll
rate,
speak.
your base rate, if you increase your base rate, you're guaranteed that money.
Yes.
There are no variables.
When it comes to budget stability, your base rate is your best risk.
Right.
Your less risk, and that's that's what we avoided last year.
But that was last year. We need
Oh, I
to-
know that.
I mean, you made several references to that, and
Well, but I know where we're headed now.
That was last year, this is this year. We're talking about a whole new year.
We need the best impact we can get on the fixed rate, base rate, and then reduce the risk to the city.
The
That way we don't have
conversation
the
was at
deficit.
one time, and I don't know if there's anybody in this room that can answer it or not, can we put a cap on seniors' base rate?
Yes, you did.
I'm asking anybody that's
Okay.
got a correct answer.
I would answer it this way and say that you have the ability to do it. I wouldn't recommend it. When you talk about cost of service rate studies and fair share rate studies, one of the things that really generated that was people, as they got started getting wiser and more information out there, people started challenging rates. including me, this is my cost. So if you have a lower rate for the senior, and they get the same service, how can you justify a lower rate for them?
Well, we have a lower rate on property tax, where it's capped. So the seniors are getting a break on that, and I don't know that they're disabled, or, you know, there's several variables that you can get. They're getting a break on that because of their age or condition.
Right.
So it'd be the same principle of getting a cap on, so seniors on a fixed income don't have to worry about their base rate going up.
Okay.
And it's
My thoughts on-
a selling point to the public that we're protecting our seniors.
Right.
My thoughts
As long
on
as you can
that.
explain it, like I said, if someone challenges it, so I'm sorry. we can say that.
I was gonna say, my thoughts on that is, Jim, every one of us in this room has a fixed income. There's no one here that has an unlimited source. Right. Now, some may have a higher level, because they have a higher leverage and they have a higher expense. If for every dollar we waive or give to someone else, the bottom line is we have to reach the bottom figure on a piece of paper, and somebody else is going to have to take on that burden.
But we're doing that with property tax already.
This isn't property tax.
And is that?
This is a consumption, and this is like the gentleman referred to, water is a commodity. It is a precious commodity.
Electricity, we pay for what we use, and I think water, we pay for what we use based on a graduated expense.
The other thing is if you've got, we've got property taxes that are fixed for seniors. The more things that you fix for any one demographic, that means somebody's got to absorb those costs. So that puts, and now all of a sudden, that age group or that demographic said, oh, that community becomes unattractive because they're going to have to absorb the cost for somebody else.
Sometimes you have young families with 2 kids that have an actual greater financial burden than your senior citizen who's retired. But this issue came up last week in Abilene. Senator Frazier and several others were all sitting around discussing this, and this is the question I asked you at the table, was that how many of y'all have unilateral authority to increase your salary at any time? And if anytime you want to increase your salary, you just do it. No one raised their hand, which probably would be the case here. And I said, well, okay, how many of y'all, anytime you want to increase your hourly rate, you can do that? Nobody raised their hand. So how many of you get an automatic cost of living increase? When the government pays you so much money, and then every time there's a cost of living, you automatically get that increase. Nobody raised it. So my last question was, who's on the fixed income? Because the whole premise behind the fixed income is that everybody's income is just going to somehow increase, which I know a lot of people over the last 5 years whose income has gone down. Some of working families, because of the economy, their income has either gone down, keep their job, or it was totally eliminated. So because of that, I don't agree with the argument that the younger people or anybody else should subsidize another segment of the population, as you stated. I just think it's a consumption matter. You charge what it costs you to produce the item, and you charge everybody the same.
And you need to go to the senior center and explain that.
Yeah.
I have explained to seniors, I'll be happy to do it again. And believe it or not, when I do that, most
I
of
mean,
the time,
that's
they
where you're
agree.
going to get, that's where you're going to get the impact.
I know, but when I explain to them, I have done it before, and I'll be happy to do it again. I go to senior citizen centers, and most of them agree, especially when I'm talking about the person you really hurt is your grandkids. Because their parents are the ones that don't have to pay the extra. And a lot of times, people, they'll say, this happens, especially on the federal level all the time, where let's decrease the cost for this person. They never tie it to the fact that somebody else has to pay more.
Well, if you
The
get
cost is the
something,
cost.
we all pay more taxes because of the seniors that get, I mean, we're all picking up that tab already.
Right.
And I'm not saying
Property lines.
pro or con, but we're already doing that exercise every year on property tax. So it would not be something brand new that nobody's ever heard of. And the question is it legal to do that? Can you
shall support, the training is a little different.
Yeah, but that question's never come up, that it's legal, illegal or legal to cap salaries or salary
Not more,
rates.
you may have somewhere in the country, but I've never heard it.
I've heard it discussed.
There are some
I've heard it-
municipalities that can't provide free water for business or tax exempt or entity because they have to do it equally. And I've seen that in the past where you couldn't provide free water from the senior center. You said,
But what if you have a senior that's multi-needed? In fact, if their senior loan qualifies them for a discount. And that's true, it's out there. People who are
well,
retired.
and on the average, seniors have more disposable income
True.
than younger people. I mean, on the average, not everybody.
And I've heard that, in my experience, I've heard it discussed a lot. And the one consolation that I've seen probably discussed more than anything else about trying to accommodate is more of a life-sustaining rate as opposed to a senior rate. Whereas you can cap a rate for the first 2,000 gallons or whatever, where you say, well, okay, I need water to live, but I have a fixed income, I don't have any money. Well, okay, 2,000 gallons is enough water for you to live on. And so you cap that rate, and then you escalate the other rates. And that's something that I have seen discussed, and you'll see, as Mr. Givens indicated, that there's some cities where they give you the first, in your base rate, they give you the first 2,000 gallons or whatever. And so that could kind of go along with that, but that's kind of a life-sustaining rate. And then
That's not discriminatory because it's based on the gallon.
right, it's based on the usage. And then I would offer that on the block rates, where they increase, the state has a state water conservation implementation task force, and they highly recommend block rates. And one of the things that Alstyne was considered for in their application for drinking water and clean water state revolving funds that was submitted this last year and approved for clean water, what you're doing with your conservation plan is one of those things that they evaluate, and block rates would be a part of that. And so I would suggest that you at least consider that.
When you say that, say your minimum wage includes the first 2,000 gallons, that would be all of the seniors.
Wouldn't matter.
That's right. It could be someone 75, or it could be some single mother who has 5 kids.
Exactly right.
Just somebody that's unemployed.
And that could
To me,
be
that's-
somebody living in an apartment or
To me,
somebody
that's
living on a
equity.
mansion.
I agree with you. That's equity.
It is.
But when you do that,
You have to make it up.
you have to make it up in your base rate. Correct. So you instead of starting at 0, you start at 2,000, you go up, and you've got to find that lost revenue from 0 to 2,000, which is in the base rate. Bottom line still be $1,200,000, whatever it is. That's it.
Now, that $1,200,000, was that taken from our budget?
Yes, sir.
Was that
With the exception again of the depreciation, that was not in the budget.
right? But that includes all of the requests for additional funds?
Kenny,
You want to go back to it?
can I ask something real quick? Because you mentioned that. What if you say we wanted to do this, but we wanted to look at it 2 years and we took depreciation out?
Okay, let's do that. Let's take depreciation out now.
In other words, Steve can run what we got for 2 years without him.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's
Well,
look at that.
And that brings up, the depreciation helps you get to a cash basis.
At
You
some-
start- At
yeah,
some
but
point in the future, you earn.
So let's make that 0.
But I always look at,
See what happens.
it's like the question, how do you lay off and buy at a time?
Yep.
Maybe
Right.
we wait 2 years before we take a bigger bite.
Okay, so we took depreciation out on water, and the minimum bill went to $35.78. Is that right? It's kind of
Yes.
what's thinking the same.
35.78.
Okay, let's do the same thing on wastewater.
Yeah. Because, let me ask you this, Steve, in your projections and what we've got before us tonight, did you use any of these figures, or, because you can, okay. You wasn't expecting this revenue, right? Okay.
When we were
Because we
making,
originally did this based on the FY 2013, and then, did the 2014 Jennifer updated this. So that goes to 3764.
When we planned this or made these increased rates last year, that was to cover the repairs in the wastewater plant. And it was said that it would be about 2 years. Now, it was my idea that we would then be able to decrease water rates for our citizens. And some people said, no, we could keep it that way, but not increase at this point, because we did increase quite a bit, and that was to cover wastewater plant fees or repairs.
What does your total bill go up to now?
Yeah, Jeff, would you go to Jack Harrison, plug those numbers in?
7342.
7342.
There's 578 and 3764.
7342.
So 24% down from what was it earlier? 47%. So it's somewhat better.
Well, now you still have depreciation too.
No, that was.
Well, that's
depreciation
only the
out.
note. That's only the
That's
note.
just a note, yeah, but we took it out.
Yeah, in this calculation here, we actually
You
took
still
it.
have an increase of 37% on the total bill. That's what it was. I mean, it was 33% on the 5,000.
Plugging these in doesn't change.
Yeah,
things.
those
You're
doesn't
going to
change
have
it.
to-
That had been correct, it's just the base rate.
It's just the, you're just looking at that first
That first
column
bill.
C right
What
there.
was it before? It was 73.
86, wasn't it?
$86. Yeah, it was a $47% increase. Now it's,
There it is, it was 86.68,
Yeah,
now
there
it's
it is.
73, so it's $13 less by taking the depreciation out on the base, line. See? I mean, it's,
And by losing this depreciation amount, and that means in future years that you thought we could start doing things.
what you're
money
doing
will
is
be there.
deferring your cash
That means
revenue
that-
source.
That means we gotta come back and raise the rates again.
well, at some
to get-
point,
To get back to where you can have some money.
We're just gonna have to continue, we'll be on the path of continuing to borrow money.
Exactly.
As opposed to being self-funded at some point.
it's a matter of when do you go to the citizens and it's a matter of when do we vote to get the income revenue we need in water and sewer.
So once you go cash, what you're eliminating is your interest expense.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
That'll help.
It'll help, but you're not talking, I mean, what are you talking, maybe 35, 40 homes a year right now? Yeah. I mean, you're not talking that much money.
See, you talk about the money that you approved for the sewer and water repairs. The cash didn't come in, so you can't make the repairs that you budgeted for. I mean, we're shortfall of $200,000, so about $300,000.
Right.
So we fix what we can, and still ain't got the revenue.
And you can't get that in 40 homes, that's $5,000 a home, it's nothing.
But you would get $1,200, $1,300 per home in additional revenue from them each month when they start using it. You're gonna get at least $100 water bill from them.
That goes back to budget stability and sitting here going nice, like,
And with this template he's provided, we can come back and reevaluate it later next year.
This is what I recommend you do, is every year, do a rate review. Just put it, not mean you're necessarily going to increase every year, but you're going to at least review it every year, you just plug in the numbers.
The only thing you review is the expenses, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only variable that you have.
That's right.
The expenses generate all these other figures.
Now, this figure, is this at the block rate or is this at the straight rate?
The increasing block rate. Right, so the 250, 365, $4 all that. That would still be there, you just, since you took the depreciation expense out, it drove your minimum bill down.
Because we took that out at one point, and I didn't know if that went back in then.
Yes, we did, we put it back.
Went back in.
Jennifer, have you looked at, you and Frank, because I remember this from last year too, the apartment complexes and schools, which are the larger meters, and the rates that you're going to on, I guess it would be, what, They have 2-inch or higher, what's that?
Yeah, that's
2-inch
going on
one.
the rate structure.
Do you have a rate structure for that, and you look at the schools, what you do, them, particularly up around the higher usages, is that $6 per gallon?
I'd have to have a conversation with the superintendent. That's what I have.
I would say that, I mean, that's gonna be astronomical. And last year, it came back to council because of the apartment complexes, and I think some behind the door deal over here, Harrington, had done with the apartments or something.
What size meter they have?
The savings that the school district didn't anticipate last year was what was done with the fire meter.
You remember that?
Yeah, at the intermediate school. That Steve met with Laney from the school district
Yeah.
because the superintendent had asked if any of their meters could be reduced
Yeah.
based upon consumption. I think only one, which one did they plan on reducing?
It's administration.
The administration building, because it's only, although it used to be an older school building,
Yeah.
their consumption is minimal, so that's the only meter that they're looking at reducing currently. But the savings that they got, that they received last year, we weren't expecting, even though the rate went up, was to go to the minimum consumption rate on the fire meter.
So on the 2-inch meter on this proposed rate, it would be 286, I think it was on the water. Yeah, there's a, I don't know what it is.
What is it now, do you know? I can't remember.
What's that?
The base rate for the 2-inch meter currently on the,
I don't recall. I thought it was a two. It might be 2.
I think it's 172.
I know if I go down on 1 inch, down to 1 inch, reduces the bill $80.
it reduced to $80 to go over it,
We'll reduce it.
to go to 1 inch,
Yes.
Well, rates are on the website.
which are probably going to,
Well,
At
it's
that
like,
rate.
I told them the piping into the building is 1.5 inches. You can't go much lower than 1 inch and not lose pressure. If you go 3/4, you're just gonna have volume, and it's not heavy pressure. Which was a good visit
The
because
2-inch right now is 212
212.
on the water side and 160 on the sewer.
But what I did find, they had one meter that wasn't recording no numbers, a 2-inch meter, and found that 2 of them. They're just 2 of them.
Yeah, not being annually calibrated.
The dial won't move.
Oh, this is
319, that's what we want. 301. Oh, that's not that.
Which meter side you do?
2 inch
For water?
for water.
For currently or?
No, projected, proposed.
Year 1? Is that what that says?
That's on
Well,
sewer.
but that's on sewer.
Oh, I'm
It would be an increase
You go-
on their base rate of 215.39.
It'd be the increase of 215.39, just on base rate.
Yep.
That's total water and sewer.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go back and if we have the depreciation in there, how much will the bill be for 5,000 gallons?
111.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
That's what
that's with the depreciation.
Didn't modify that formula.
That formula didn't change.
That didn't change, so it's
Yeah, that
one-
didn't change.
It's 111. That would be a minimum bill up to 5,000 gallons. I think our minimum
The
bill
bill I
now.
paid today for the restaurant was $78.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the bill right around now, the rates we've done, it, I think it's, last year come up to be like $82, is that right? Right, somewhere in that range.
There's no over moving. My bill would be now. Mine would go
Yeah, it's
down.
right there at the top. It's right there above 8135 versus 111.
Yeah, 81, yeah,
Right there, 81.
yeah, I thought it was 82.
And Mr. Smith, that comparison's right there for you. Column, see 8135 being the 5,000.
What was yours, Bill?
It is.
Again, 70? 71?
$78.
$78. So
It
you're
was
right around-
4,000 some gallons. I mean, it wasn't up to 5,000.
So you're right around the average, so.
But
so you
I
got
usually use
4,000.
about 5,000.
So you all got $30.
Every time I run my dishwasher, I use 2.5
How much?
gallons.
2.5.
But even the captures, and it's just saying one over.
Right. For a total cycle, it's 2.5 gallons. That's why I use it.
That's how they come down. Prices of car wash the same way. They do that.
I think we need to.
They're required.
Frank? I think we need to see these rates next, we meet next week.
Next week, we'll be doing, back to general fund, and then the week after.
I'd like to see this, I would like to see this come back with some impact fees. We need to have some kind of projection on revenue from impact fees. We need to go to the people who are living in this town, like the all, and this burden on them doesn't need to be entirely on the citizens. It's obvious what we need, but we can't, we talk about being equitable. We need to go to the construction phase.
Yes, sir. And that's the feel of council, right?
That's the way I feel.
$3,000 more on fees.
It's gonna get absorbed into construction costs.
Council would like to see the impact fees reinstated.
I think so, yeah.
I think we need some projections on it.
Okay.
Based on,
The real estate
even if
market right now is just, I'll be honest with you, I'm actually amazed at how it went from dead in Alstyne to where it's gone. And the reason I say that is just because y'all know we went from 0 permits to receiving any money on impact fees to building. And I think the incentive of pulling those fees to get people up here to build and get the growth coming it may have had something to do with it, but right now they're building no matter what. And the houses, whether they're new, used, they're selling just like crazy. So, and with the interest rates so low, that $3,000 is nothing.
that's what I was going to say, with a 30-year note, the cost is there.
We'll plug those numbers back in and bring it back to y'all.
You know, if you can go to DR Horton and get some kind of estimation as to what they expect to build out over the next 12 months. If it's 30 homes, I mean, that's $90,000.
I get in touch with okay, so I've got, looking at rolling into the loan, the 2 trucks as well as the SCADA system. Is that true? Is that something I want to see? The SCADA system, and the 2 trucks.
Rolling into the loan.
Oh,
Instead of paying.
well, we'll have some money to work with, but I think if we can convert that.
Okay. We'll work with Steve and we'll get that. We'll refine some numbers and get the impact fees in there and have something for y'all to.
Are any of those notes where there's no penalty for a non payoff? I mean, this first year, to build up that depreciation account's going to take a year, 6 months to even get any money in that account. I mean, that's.
Well, we've got to start somewhere. I mean, one of the concerns was us being self-funded at some point and not incurring any more debt. Because the big concern was debt. So that was one of the recommendations from the auditors. So that's the whole reason that those numbers are in there.
We won't have access to that depreciation money for a period of time.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, that has to build.
We've got to start somewhere.
But to get to where we need to be to get Steve going in the direction he needs to go, he's got to have some tools to work with. And if we can include those 2 trucks in.
Okay.
I thought there was 1 truck.
2 truck and water, truck and sewer.
Oh, okay.
That's the 48.
It'll be the same fund, with 2 different departments, part of the public works.
Is the impact fee that you're talking about, I think it's 3,000, that water and sewer? Let's do a what-if scenario on that then. Let's assume that, let's say, that project that saves 100,000 just for discussion. So go back to the water and sewer, and we'll subtract out 50,000.
I was gonna say, when y'all,
The impact would be.
yeah, and when you do it, Frank, Steve,
We'll just put it here.
So is it 50,
I
is it
think we need to
50,000?
look, I think we need to
In
look
the
at a
last
very
budget
reasonable
revenues.
number.
Yeah.
You know, if you think it's 70,000,
so that's
let's
going
look
to
at a
be
reasonable
90,
number.
90,
Err on the side of
If I stay with this 40, what we do this year,
Okay.
and I don't.
And then do the same thing on sewer, we can look at it.
They put in 4 foundations this week.
Yeah.
They put in a foundation that every 2 weeks.
And what I normally do is that I take the base spreadsheet and I save it to another tab. When I do, I don't know what else on there, so if I mess up, I can always go back to my base and do that too. Copy and paste the whole thing to another tab.
I think if you go to DR Horton, I mean, DR Horton obviously being the big
50 in
builder
water
right
and sewer.
now.
Yeah, 50.
If you go to them, just ask them, what are your projections for build out next year, and they may tell you 40 units. I mean, once they permit, that impact fee is ours. That house doesn't have to be sold. So,
So wastewater is 35 now.
But the impact fees don't have anything to do with rates.
No, but you have to deduct it out as other revenue.
it's other revenue.
It does have to do with in terms of, we subtract that from your total revenue, because you receive that funds from somewhere other than.
But it's not calculated as an expense to produce the water and take it to the sewer.
But it's still a revenue.
But it's in the total amount you're spending.
Well, the impact fees go to, do the impact fees go to public works or do they go to the administration?
It's his.
So you're saying that the rates would be less if you calculate impact fees?
Yeah,
That's what it shows.
That's what you're saying?
Yeah. It would see right there, the first column.
By 16%.
It went from 73 to 68.
It went from 72 to 68.
Impact fees are
It's just
should
revenue that you get to
Next.
spend.
You have to put back in.
Well, it would,
Gravy.
it would take some of the burden off the
Put them into your
citizens.
depreciation.
We
For
could
this
just,
time.
we produce the same revenue we need,
Well, for
at
this
less
year.
burden
Yeah.
to the citizens.
This year, yeah.
For this year.
That's if this housing market.
Depending on depending on what things you're gonna build. But that's what I'm saying.
If Obama does what he wants to do, then
Yeah.
this is all done.
D.R. Horton knows what they're planning on budgeting out.
He will have to,
Yeah, they have a
he
projection.
made it 39, 41.
Understand that we just put 100,000 in there for impact fees. If you don't make that revenue this
Right.
year, that just means your depreciation fund reduces by 100,000, because that's an expense, it's
I
not
would
really
put
an
it in there
expense.
because that's a variable.
Well, it's a variable, but.
Yeah, I just wanted him to
the-
show you, because he was mentioning it, just to show what the impact would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would show
Simply
100%
Impact is
of recommend.
100,000, you can buy 3 pickups. It's the impact.
That
But the
would
basis,
actually
the
lie,
basis of it being,
I mean, if I
How
was
many
going
you
to
want
repair
to
a
see?
sewer, they'd only repair 2
how
sewers.
mad you want the citizens. That's the bottom line. So, I mean, you thought they were coming in to City Hall last year?
It's still the bench.
Wait till they get a load of this.
Yeah, I know.
And not only that, this is what I've experienced, it doesn't matter what the increase is, as long as it's an increase. If it's a, I mean, it could be as small as, it could be 10 cents increase, and people are still gonna come. You just have to understand, you gotta go through that phase, it's gonna go up for a while, then it's gonna level off, and then it's gonna just die back out. That's a downward fall.
But sometimes the amount is how angry
I
they're
know,
going to
I know,
be.
I know, that's why we're
They're
doing
not
all these
nearly
different
as angry
scenarios.
at 10 cents as
You
they
know,
are as
But what
$30.
is also our job is to help explain that we're trying to keep it as sensitive as we can, but in 2 years, I mean, we look at, it's easy to see, we have a police department, we have a fire department, and we have a public works department that they don't have the tools they need. They have stuff that's breaking down and falling apart. I mean, they're in bad shape. They've extended it past even what the life expectancy of these equipment and cars. And then we have aging and an infrastructure that is just literally falling to pieces. So it's either we start doing something and gradually increase to get things caught up at some point. That will level off because we have the things to take care of the citizens and things are up to date. Versus in 2 years, if we keep postponing it, when state regulations force our hand and all of a sudden we have huge increases and we say we tried, but this is what we have to do now.
Well, we're not going to be eligible for any of these loans unless we stay aggressive on our rate. Do we consider the savings that we're discussing on the general fund side?
I was going to ask you, can I remember to refund?
Your block rate, those are in the projection for the 1.2 million.
No, just the average rate.
Just
And I'm
the
still
They're not taking
Okay.
individually, but what we did was took an average based on your usage, which was 64%. We took that number and projected to a number, I think we had.
Okay, so the question is, how do we?
70 cents of that is.
Okay. So my question is, if we go with the base rate for the minimum 2,000 gallon being in that rate, because we start at 3,000 up, so 3 to 10, and 10 to 20. What rate would be there to project what we need, to achieve what we need in that 1.2 million?
Every city military.
Can you put that in there?
Let's go back to the, go back to the water again. Let's put in the 2,000 gallons.
Let me add it.
This
He's
is
going to plug in.
See where that zero is on the
If we limit that to
1682?
that base rate, we
Put
put
2,000.
the first 2,000 in that base rate. We started at 3,000,
See, I didn't, those two changed 33, 30 versus 39.
So you can see what your bill would be from 3,000 gallons to 2,000 gallons.
So then we would have a base rate including.
But that's 2,000.
this would
Right,
be
yeah,
the
yeah,
life
yeah.
sustaining rate.
Life sustaining.
Life sustaining
And see what
rate.
that, where the first block was 250, to see what that goes for.
So with the life sustaining rate, that's what he's going to show us now.
Yep.
right?
We can show you part of it. We can't show you the increase in block rates, but that's, that formula, she can do it, but we have to make it, you have to go through and do each one of those.
one
You have to do
to do,
by hand.
Okay,
But we can show you the minimum bill, which is what you just did.
so that's the minimum of 2,000.
Yes, that's including the
That's
2,000.
if you
Okay.
charge for that lot.
Yeah, if you
That's
charge.
charging for the 2,000.
That's charging for the 2,000.
Yeah.
So your base rate on that schedule right there,
Basically $5 less, it was 86, it started with it's 89. It's basically $5 for 2,000 gallons.
If you don't charge for the 2,000, it'll be even less, but I would recommend it, but just saying that we're giving you this water, we know that the cost is $250 per thousand, whatever the number is. But we're not charging for it.
I think it's better marketed if you tell them to get 2,000 gallons of this
Right.
rate.
Yeah, it's included. I'll never say it's free.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
right.
It's included. It's
We're giving you 2,000 gallons of this rate.
Yeah.
Glasses, I mean,
The life sustaining rate.
And then the only complaint you'll have is the one that you mentioned earlier, somebody who was out of town on that. Why do I have to pay?
so when we come back, when you come back next week and we have the projections for impact fees, could you do the life sustaining rate of 2,000 to bring back the block rate cost? 2 weeks. Yes, 2 weeks, okay.
Also, next week we get a
It's
spreadsheet
actually
for the
a copy.
documents.
Then on the table, you just copy, paste it back in, we got the existing table, so you got a spare table. And then those shows.
So I would estimate probably 70% of people are gonna come in between 5 and 10,000 gallon rate. Most of the time.
Most of them come in at
At the
5.
5, yeah.
Yeah, you had, like I said, 64.5%, so.
60, okay.
And that was for last month, so that's a high usage month.
Right.
If you go to your lower usage month, you have even more than that.
So we're looking at about, depending on how much the block rate changes, we're looking at least $30 a month on the average 5,000 gallons.
Okay, am I right in that this will be brought back
Depending on
in
the block rate,
2 weeks?
70% of the people right now are running right around 5,000 gallons. So
2 weeks, right?
with a new rate, they can come in about $30 higher than that.
Well, no, everything on that block rate
It hasn't been adjusted, but right now it's $30.
The original rate was $30.
Hopefully the impact.
Third's pretty good because the minimum's up $22, so that's pretty close.
So this will be brought back in 2 weeks. And did you say that, Frank, did you say that next week is the general fund? And on that, you're going to fix the spreadsheet for the contract services by department. Okay, are there any other questions? Discussion? Once again, next week is the general fund, and in 2 weeks, it will be back to the water department, and these will be brought back, these rates. Correct? There is no further discussion. Is there a motion that we adjourn? Is there a second? We have a motion and a second that we adjourn.
Mayor, who made the motion?
Beg your pardon?
Jim.
Jim?
Minta.
All of those in favor to adjourn, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. We are adjourned at 8:43.
I was told by my wife.
Uh-oh.
Are you married?
No.
Were you ever?
But you,
Okay, any kids?
no. And no grandkids.
All of them? Well, yeah, that's probably a pretty good, that should be, okay. And you retired from the Air Force? Okay. Okay, so you were happily married.
I was happily married. Yeah, and he up and died.
That's right. That's right. So you're happy all the way up till he died, then he you put him in a box after that. Yeah.
You bet. Anything else?
Not real smart. Not real smart. So we have to fight. Thank you very much.
Well, we just enjoyed that, Randy.